is like now we actually know what we're doing.
Sort of. I think I messed it up while you were gone.
Well, that would make sense because I wasn't here, you know. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm so glad you're back.
I'm really glad to be back. Like, seriously. You'll bring me so much joy. And this is a cool one to be back on. I mean, I'm really bummed that I missed Sam and everyone, but this is like the mound culture thing. I don't know. I think it's going to be the next thing. I mean, I already think it's like pretty freaking huge, pardon my pun, in this field, but
I can't wait to get into it. You know what's wild is how into ancient history and different stuff I was for so many years before I ever even knew about it.
It's so covered up. Like I'm hoping that we'll be here when like they actually finally start like quote unquote investigating these things in the mainstream.
Yeah.
Because I think
look at this.
Yeah.
Look at how many people are in here. I think I think it's going well. People are hopping over to I don't know where people are tuning in from. We're streaming to multiple channels, so
heck yeah. But that's great.
It is great.
It's exciting. My baby has hiccups and is just like kicking me right in the bladder right now. This is so much fun. Not. So if I get twitchy, that's why. Oh, well, I had my appointment today and they were like, yep, it's in prime position, could be any time now. And me and my husband just like looked at each other and we were just like.
That applause is for Kay returning. We are so happy to have you back. Thank you for being here.
Oh, no, thank you for having me here. It's so lovely to be back. I've missed you, Mike. I've missed Sammy. I've missed everyone in the chat. I've missed
They missed you. We had some amazing, you got some amazing love in the comments while you were gone. People were really, really worried about you and missed you and wanted to see you.
Well, I'm like, stop it. You're going to make me cry. And I'm not just saying that. Well, I promise the next time I'm not here, it will be because I've had a baby. It will not be because of tragedy.
You're gonna be streaming from the delivery room.
I'm gonna be there like, what are we talking about today? I need the baby to learn about Göbekli Tepe. It'll be great.
Oh man,
lots has happened since I've been gone. You want to get into it?
Yeah, let's do it. So we've well, the main thing is we have a new channel. We decided to move everything over to a dedicated channel, Wandering Wolf Live, because the things have been growing and every week it seems like it's getting bigger, and we just keep one-upping ourselves. At some point I feel like we're going to collapse, but so far we're hanging on every week. We're getting the show done right. But yeah, we moved it over to Wandering Wolf Live so that we have a, for everybody watching, we are going to dual stream for a little bit and give everybody time to move over, but eventually here in the coming weeks, we're not going to be streaming on the main Wandering Wolf channel, and we'll be moving everything over to Wandering Wolf Live. So make sure we've dropped it in the comments here, the link, and we'll keep dropping that throughout the show. So make sure you hit that link and go over there, sub, and hit the alert button so you guys get a notification for the show every week on Wandering Wolf Live. That's where it's at.
Notifications.
Yeah. What else we got going on? Sedona's now. We're about to kick things off big time for the Sedona conference in the next week or two. I think you can get tickets right now. I should know that.
You should know that. You literally run and host the whole thing, Mike. You should know if people can get tickets.
Live. You can get tickets to Sedona.
You can get tickets.
Yeah.
And everyone should go get tickets, not only because Sedona is an awesome place, but because look at that flipping lineup, guys.
Just FYI, that's not the lineup. That's just the
well done, Mike.
That would be amazing.
That would be. But that's it will be.
But we have
cool banner.
Yeah. But we have some big names, and I think they are listed. But it's going to be a good one.
Yeah.
But you can get your tickets now. And then we have Austin is going to go live here in the coming weeks.
Oh my God.
The big end of the year conference in Austin, Texas. I just actually went today and saw the venue. It's at ACL Live Moody Theater. It's crazy. So
You
it's going to be
sound
2,000.
just like Joe Rogan. It's crazy.
2,750 seats we'll have available for that.
Oh my gosh. And
It's
Austin is
insane.
becoming such a hub for all things culture, really.
Yeah.
Like Austin is the hub of American culture. It's not, certainly not New York or Los Angeles or any of these places anymore. It's Austin. I'm so excited.
It's my hometown. When you guys come here, I'm going to take you guys out for some good Texas barbecue.
Yes.
There's cart ruts here in town. Take you guys out, show you the cart ruts. We'll have fun.
Heck yeah.
Throw you guys in VIP so you can just hang out. You can sit down with your baby and just chill.
I love that. I don't know. We need to talk about it, but I want to do more for this conference than just be.
Oh, I'll give you stuff to do.
Yeah, I know. I want to do some fun stuff. I want to hang out with all the fam. I'm never going to be as good as Cody doing anything, but I'm looking forward to meeting him in real life and listening to him do his thing.
Such a stud. Is he in chat? There he is.
Really? I don't even have the chat open. That was just me being like, this is how I feel. Oh, yeah, the chat's flipping blowing up already. I'm here for it. Let's freaking go. I think it's because, Mike, you've done some incredible work. Loving the new set, by the way. Done some incredible work on the show. I mean, this is such a natural platform for you. Sammi, obviously, freaking killing it all the time.
All the time.
A pretty incredible guest today. And I'm going to ask some really dumb, embarrassing questions because I purposefully did not do too much background research because so my family's been watching the show. They've never watched anything I've ever done before. They've been watching the show and I want them to come in, or I wanted to come in with the same mindset I think they're coming into a lot of this subject matter with, which is
learn.
What?
Yeah.
Could be one of the biggest cover-ups in global history, at least one of the topics today.
Well,
certainly in American history.
I had mentioned earlier that I was into ancient history for so long, for years, and never heard about mound culture and things like that. Until my buddy Will Brown, Incredible History, and I think he's in chat.
Love Will.
Turns me on to our guest's work, who just who crushes it on Twitter. That's where I follow him most everything he does there, and started learning about this. And I was just blown away when I started getting into it a bit more. And I think on that note, let's bring our guest in. This is Dr. Greg Little, and I am so excited to have you with us today and connect. They're here with us. It's a chat. Yeah. But thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and we'll see where this goes. I'm pretty much open to talk about whatever you want. I do have some, not in any order, some pictures and a couple videos that we can show of some sites. It's up to you, but we'll just go wherever you want to go. Am I loud enough for you, or should I?
Yeah, perfect. Okay, sounds good to me.
My wife has never said that, so that's good. I'll take what I can get.
Oh, that's great.
Well, maybe let's start with, the mound culture is how we, I found you and different stuff like that, and just the extensive amount of work that you've done documenting and sharing the history, and really that's sharing it with people who are unaware of all of this here in America. This mound culture and these mounds all over the country. Can we just maybe briefly dive into that so our viewers have an understanding of what we're getting into?
Yeah,
sure. Can you let me screen share?
We can.
Okay.
So
do you see where it says the present with the little plus button?
What do I need to do here?
So underneath the screen, there's it says present or invite in the little squares.
Oh, okay. Present.
So you'll click that, and then it will let you give the option of pulling up a window or.
Is it the gear? Is that what you said? The little gear?
No, there's it should be above that, but below.
Oh, present. Is that what it is?
Yes. Yeah. Present or invite.
Slides, PDFs, video file. Oh, okay. Share screen. That's what I need to do here.
Yes.
Okay. 2 monitors. Okay. Good screen. All right. Do I want to see those tips again? No. And select a tab to share. It's this one. I did select that. Chrome tab, window. There. Got it. Oh, wow. I'm amazed. Okay. Uh-oh. Oh God! All right.
Doing better than Mike. So
it says I got to go. Chrome has lost permission to capture your screen. System preferences. Okay, open them. Jeez. Okay, and that's.
They're already trying to suppress this knowledge.
Well, yeah, okay.
They've tapped in.
Yeah. As soon as
we should probably start doing this before.
In the notes, I was like, CIA is going to be on to us within the next 5 minutes. Like,
nah.
I just got my green card, guys. No,
no, not that. All right. So,
if you want, you can always send stuff to Sammy, and she can pull it up.
Yeah. Some of these files. Well, I can fiddle with this while we talk a bit. So, all right, the Mounds. Yeah. You guys had brought up the question of Mounds, and so without even talking about how I got into it, there are probably 1 million mounds still existing in the United States, in the 49 states. I'm not counting Hawaii in this. While they are Native American, they're different. They're not the same as the people that were in North America. So there's probably 1 million mounds that were once here, not still existing. It's probably at least 100,000 or more that still exist. But out of the original 1 million, more than half of those were burial mounds, and some of them were very big. Some of them had thousands of bodies in them, literally thousands. And most people think that they would they'd lay the bodies on the ground and then cover them with dirt, and the dirt became a mound. That's not true. They really went through elaborate procedures to bury the dead. And I'm still trying to click away here to get this thing. Oh no, this says restart Chrome. No way. I'll go away. So I can't really send this. Let me try this again. I have some.
Would it be easier for you to email me?
Yeah, well, I can't email some of these video files are large, very large. Yeah.
So when I found out there were millions of mounds in the States, that blew my mind. Like other things that we've talked about on here that people have shared with us on the show, little nuggets of information. That's one of those things that it changes your perspective of our understanding of the history here in America.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, the kind of funerary processes of Native American cultures and the fact that, almost 90%, I guess, of these mounds have been destroyed. That's like, sorry, I can smell burning in my house. I just need to text my husband to make sure it's not on fire.
I'll tell you, live stuff. I was on Coast to Coast once, and I was in a hotel in Atlanta, Georgia. My wife was doing a conference at another place, so I went to this hotel to do this talk. And it was like 2 a.m., and somebody started pounding on the door. and pounding on the door, and they had a key in it, and they kept turning the door handle and pounding on the door. And so some of the people at Coast to Coast then called the hotel where I was, and they came down, and there were a couple of people who were slightly inebriated that were going to the wrong room and trying to get in.
That's wild, especially on like Coast to Coast, where you think of it like, I love turning on Coast to Coast. I just feel like so relaxed, like it's like getting a hug, even though you like go into all of these different crazy avenues. It's sort of where you go to get like, we have a Welsh word called cwtch, which is like a prolonged period of cuddling. And so it's sort of like a really big cwtch as you learn about all of the crazy stuff that goes on in the world and the cosmos that, you know, wouldn't otherwise hear about. He's not texting me back, so I don't feel very cwtched right now. But for something that chaotic on Coast to Coast, that's hilarious. But so okay, I like the mound culture, because it seems to be one of those things that, like, if you had to explain it in the most basic layman's terms, the sort of like, where do you even begin with something like this? It just seems like that was one of my issues when I was looking into it last week. It's like, it just seems like such a big topic.
Well, it is.
Yeah.
It is. It's a huge topic.
Where does one begin?
There's a way to begin it, and that is the first mound known in North America is on the campus of Louisiana State University in Baton Rouge. It dates to 9,000 BC.
Whoa.
9,000 BC. It was only dated to 9,000 BC in 2023, and there were 31 carbon dates taken. So we're not talking about somebody getting one anomalous carbon date. There were 31 carbon dates that were taken there. Prior to that, in the United States, the oldest mound dated to about 5,400 BC. And that was only 2 miles away from the one on the Louisiana State University campus. It was actually on the Capitol grounds of the Louisiana Capitol, of the state capital. It was called Montesano, and it was bulldozed flat in 1961 to 65. These old mounds in the United States, anyway, started in Louisiana. That's very clear. I have a map that shows. I'm still trying to figure this thing out. It keeps telling me to do something here. I unlocked it.
Is the video in its own window?
Uncheck, then This is just unreal.
Do you have the video up in its own window, like ready to play?
I have a PowerPoint presentation here where the video is embedded into it because I have more than one. But if so maybe I can just show the photos or the video.
Yeah, maybe try having them be in their own files.
Yeah, well, they are in their own files. I've never used StreamYard before, but what it's telling me to do on a Macintosh is not doing what it should do. I know this frustrates the heck out of people out there listening. I'm really sorry, folks.
Oh no, we're just hanging out. Like the vibe here is like we're all hanging down the pub talking about cool stuff. And again, you're still doing better than Mike has ever done with technology.
Well,
this is why I'm here.
Let's
give you a second for that. And I just wanted to
it tells me I have to restart Chrome to do this.
Well, you're always welcome to restart.
It means I'll go away for a minute. Do you want me to go away for a minute?
That's okay. Yeah, hop out for a sec and then
all right, folks,
see if that works.
I promise I will be back. If this is fixed, then it's fixed. If it's not, then it's not. Okay. All right.
We'll see you back here in a second.
Bye.
We'll roll with it.
So I have an answer for what happened with the burning smell for everyone
who
wasn't concerned. So I texted my husband. Also update for the fam who know about all the trauma I've been through with my cats in the last 24 hours. One of them came home, so I think she was out whoring, which is nice. So I'm probably going to have more bloody kittens. But yeah, the burning smell. So I texted him like, I can smell burning. Are you cooking? And my husband's an excellent chef. He loves to cook. He's a very good cook. He goes, yeah, lit a paper towel on fire for fun. So
Well, at least you know your nose is working.
Yeah.
Exactly. We didn't just have the entire house deep cleaned in preparation for the baby today. One of the cats already like took a piss on the floor, so you know it's just one of those.
Do.
It's chaos.
How we
How
looking?
did that work out?
I think so. Take a look and see.
Oh, it
You
did.
did
There it
it. Yeah.
Okay.
Our
Wow.
patience has
Wow,
been
you're
rewarded.
miles ahead of me and Mike now with all of this tech.
All right.
Yeah.
So
this
yeah,
is
I had
so
to
cool.
restart it. That's the issue. Okay.
Amazing.
So
Worth the wait. I'm excited for this. This is great.
Yeah. So
Okay.
almost everybody has seen, and I'm leaving this open on my left side here so I can see where I want to go.
Yeah.
So almost everybody has seen this map on the
Mhm.
right-hand side. And by the way, can you see my cursor here? As I move
Yes.
it around?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. So on the right-hand side, the red dots represent mound sites.
Good grief.
And these were found by the Smithsonian in 1894. That's when they compiled it all. The Smithsonian estimated there were 100,000 sites. And you'll hear that figure still cited today. It's in older textbooks. But so that generated from 100,000 sites to somebody then wrote 100,000 mounds. So you'll hear that figure often, that there were 100,000 mounds. But the 100,000 sites, like for example, Ohio alone, even today has about 10,000 mounds altogether, and Minnesota has 12,000 mounds today that are counted, that are in the state registry. So there were, I'm almost certain, I've actually added it up as I work on the new Mound Encyclopedia, and there are approximately, or there were at least 1 million mounds. And I'm beginning to think there's probably 120,000 mounds that we know about still existing. And I'm also counting shell mounds and shell rings, which I'll show you some shell mounds here in a while. So I'd mentioned LSU, Louisiana State University, and these are the two mounds. And oddly, again, dated to 9,000 BC. I'll show you a bit of the article in a minute. The two mounds, oddly, this is bizarre, are aligned to Arcturus, the rising of Arcturus in roughly 6,000 BC. Now, the weird thing about this is that Monte Sano is also was aligned to the rising of Arcturus. And this is straight out of an article published in American Archaeology. And I don't know what to make of that. I can tell you this. The only place that I have ever seen Arcturus talked about as some sort of an ancient important star was by Edgar Cayce. Edgar Cayce's readings had, I believe there's 34 readings that mention the star Arcturus, and he called it a gateway, a portal in the sky. And he said that's where souls enter this, he didn't say the universe, but that's where they enter the sky world from somewhere else. It's how they get in here into the physical world. And he's the only person I've ever heard talk about the star Arcturus. And years ago, I was asked by the Cayce organization to find out, to take a look at mounds and see if what Cayce said about mounds, if any of it was true, because they really didn't know. And Arcturus came up in it. And at the time I said, no, that's nonsense. I've never seen anything written about Arcturus. So 2023, it came up, and here's the actual article. This is the abstract of the article. So it had a whole lot of authors. It was in the American Journal of Science. And again, well, this says 2022, but the article from the pictures that I showed you come from 2023. Wow. These are other sites. This is a map of other sites in Louisiana that are very old. And you can see on these that if you start at the south and move north, they get a little bit younger. But something went on then. Something happened. But the problem with this is there were shell mounds up and down both the Atlantic coast, the Pacific coast, and the Gulf of Mexico, and some of them date to 5,500 BC. There are some in California that go to almost 6,000 BC. And those mounds, none of those mounds were counted by the Smithsonian. Oregon has lots of mounds. Nevada has mounds. Washington State has mounds. Around San Francisco Bay, there were 425 gigantic shell mounds at one time. And they're not just mounds filled with shell. They had burials, they had loads of artifacts, and they were used for structures. They supported structures that were built on the top of them.
Oh, wow.
I'll keep. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I jump in with like? I'm writing down questions because
Sure.
This is so cool. So the LSU, the mounds there, their alignment, and if you think about like Edward Casey's work, and for those who are listening and don't know it, I highly recommend going and watching the Y-Files episode on Edgar Casey. I didn't write it, but it's still very good. It's his sort of like life after death, that place we go to, that process. It's always sort of, to me, aligned somewhat in the, maybe not in the straight vernacular, but to a certain extent with the sort of like Native American, I can't remember what they call it.
The Path of Souls.
Yeah, the Path of Souls, definitely. I think like, so the fact that he comes up in relation to that star, I think is very interesting. I don't know if you can necessarily, or if there's anything like on that you can speak to that. And are there any other mounds that align to the same?
Well, there are. I don't know of any others, and I have done a lot of research looking at alignments, run the computer star programs, go to the sites, take the measurements, take the alignments, and then run the computer star programs, which go back to certain dates in the past. I've done a lot of that. I've published 7 or 8 different reports on that. I did write a book called Path of Souls, and then have come up with other materials where, and I'll actually be talking about this 2 nights from now on Coast to Coast. I'm going on there to talk specifically about Casey. And I am kind of the ARE's person to do the late night shows on Casey. I never say that I believe everything he said, but I certainly know pretty much what he talked about and what he said and his story pretty well. And I say Casey was basically a shaman. He was doing what all shaman do. Casey's ideas about what happens to the soul after death are almost identical to the Path of Souls ideology that the mound builders had. And that is that the soul, when it leaves the body, the soul has to make a jump to the sky, and then it goes through a series of experiences along a path, and it has to purify itself in those experiences before it can go through a portal somewhere else. And I've written a great deal about that. The book Path of Souls goes into it.
Otherwise, is it getting like rebirth? Are you getting rebirth?
It's not exactly rebirth. Native Americans believed in some souls would simply go back to what they jokingly called well, the other world is the real term that they use. That was kind of the secret term. But what they told the mythologists and ethnologists that talked to them, they called it the happy hunting ground. Happy hunting ground. And actually had a shaman live with us for 30 days, he and his family. And that's the way he put it. He had that exact voice, and he went, "Oh yeah, we we would say we go to the happy hunting ground, and I'd say, well, what is that? Where is it? And he said, well, it's beyond the stars. It's beyond the sky world. And the only term that they had for it other than happy hunting ground is the other world, because in it was very similar to this world, but we didn't have the same frailty. You know, here we have a lifespan in this physical world, a lifespan, and we have a certain degree of frailty, and we're only here for a very temporary time in the scheme of things. So that was one thing. Some people who died, when they died, their soul could progress along that path of souls and exit the sky world through a portal or an ogi. And they had those symbols. They would put those ogi symbols on a lot of pottery and artifacts. And now I'll show you some of them. There you go. Yeah. The hand, the eye and hand symbol. And these are actually very sacred artifacts that were used in the Path of Souls ritual. And if you look at the right-hand side, that's a palette. That circular thing on the right-hand side is a palette, and it's engraved. And you can see there are two hands with something that looks kind of like an eye in what would be the palm. And that was actually laid flat on a pedestal during the ceremony.
Okay.
And then these other objects, small pottery pieces. I'll show you another one. This one on the right is a pottery vessel. It's under 4 inches tall. So it's very small. And you can see the hand is pointing up in this case. If you look at the pottery piece in the middle, it has the hand pointed down. And there's a hand pointing down all the way around the exterior of that pot. Then on the left-hand side, you see that is a gorget, or I like to just call them gorgets. I don't like gorget. But anyway, this gorget has the hand with the eye in it pointing down. And it's not really an eye. It looks like an eye, but it is an ogi. Go back to this other one. So these little pottery.
Can you tell us real quick before we move on what an ogi is?
The word ogi means portal or opening. Some doorways are called ogis. It's spelled O-G-E-E. And so if we go here, the hand, on the right-hand side, you see the hand, and it is descending. And you'll see there are 3 dots at the top of the hand.
Yeah.
Okay, 3 stars. And the hand constellation is what we call the Orion constellation.
Now, is that a depiction of a mound there that they're around?
This is a depiction of a mound site. Yes, you can see these are outer walls like a square, and then there's almost like an opening here that has a hook on it. This is in Indiana, and I know Mound Lore, I saw he was on here a little while ago. I can't see any of that now, but I think he's probably been to this site. Anyway, this depicts the Path of Souls ceremony held around the winter solstice, and they had a 4-week window, 2 weeks before the solstice, 2 weeks after. They would bring the bones of the dead or the remains of the dead to a center mound, and they would cremate them there. That's what they did with the majority of people. Now, there's a different thing. If they wanted them to resurrect, not reincarnate, because they believed in reincarnation too, and they believed in resurrection. So if they wanted resurrection, they didn't cremate the body, but most bodies were cremated. And the cremation of the body, it sends what is called the life soul, and the life soul is comprised of the physical matter that we're made out of, because they have this cosmological belief about the beginning. And in the beginning, there was a big bang. There was a singularity that created everything, and everything is spiritual in nature to them. So the physical body itself is spiritual.
So
then
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but they already had this understanding of a Big Bang type
Yeah.
of thing before any kind of colonization or Europeans came over or anything like that. This is something they already had in their mythology.
Absolutely. And this is not me making it up. This comes from ethnography books.
Amazing.
They talked about a singularity. The Zuni tribe said there was a container of everything. That's how the Zuni worded it. The Zuni
it was
shaman
a cat.
said it.
A cat knocked it off the edge of a table if there was contained everything.
Yeah.
And that's how we got here.
Sounds like one of my cats.
A cat would do that. But how did the cat, if the container had everything, how did the cat exist? Anyway, I don't want to confuse you with that. Anyway.
Just ask Schrodinger. Did it really exist?
Yeah. So what the Zuni said is the container of everything thought outward. And when it thought outward, it just created the entire universe instantly. And the mound builders, and this comes mainly from Cheyenne shaman from the 1800s and 1700s. The Cheyenne shaman talked about a single point of spiritual energy. And this single point of spiritual energy began to churn in itself. And when it started churning, it created two opposing forces, and it's almost like the yin yang symbol. And of course, when it created these two opposing churning forces, it's no longer a singularity, and that caused it to create everything. That caused a big bang. That caused it. And so everything is spiritual. Everything, because it all came from this initial thing. So when the body was cremated, it released what is called the free soul. It freed it. And it is an etheric, it's etheric, but it's still spiritual in nature. And it first, to make this journey on the path of souls, it first had to jump to this eye, which actually, if you look at the eye in that hand, in the right-hand side, it looks more like a shell, doesn't it? And there's a guy by the name of P.D. Newman, who is an excellent author who has written about a lot of this also. And he has written about the hallucinogenics that were used by these people. And we'll probably
what kind
talk.
Of hallucinogenics?
Oh, they had, Native Americans had a DMT-like substance. Just like ayahuasca in South America. I actually wrote a textbook entitled Psychopharmacology, which came out in 1999. I'm sorry, it came out in 1997. And it had a chapter on hallucinogens. And in it, I spent 4 pages talking about hallucinogens that were used by Native Americans and by people in South America. And DMT was definitely included in that, and the DMT usage in South America. And again, that was back in 1997. So they did use those. I don't want to get off though and talk. I know that's an interesting topic to a lot of people, so we'll get back to that. But the soul would make a leap, and it leaped into that ogie. And it is a shell. It's literally like a shell, and it would tuck itself in that. So what Orion does during the winter is Orion rises in the eastern horizon through the night. It transverses all across the sky, and then it sets in the western horizon, and it sets early in the morning, generally around 4 o'clock in the morning. Depends where you are in the world, but it's about 4 o'clock in the morning. And so the soul had to make the leap right before it went down in the below the horizon. And then, of course, the sun came up, and they then knew that the soul was tucked away in this ogie, and it made a journey through the underworld then. So it went down and around and under, and it came up the next night on the western horizon. And then when it got to the center of the sky, the soul would hop out of it and get on the Milky Way, which was the actual path. and it would start moving north on the Milky Way. And along the way, it had all these tasks it had to perform. And those tasks were in literature written in the 1700s. They actually told the story back in the 1700s. Some of the information was gathered in the 1600s.
Wow.
But it did all these tasks, and then eventually it reached a judge, which was a gigantic bird in most Native American lore. And that's on the left-hand side here. And the bird was the Cygnus constellation, which at that time was in the far north end of the Milky Way.
Mm-hmm.
And this whole cosmological belief probably started about 17 or 18,000 years ago, when the North Star was Deneb, which would be the eye of the bird, and Cygnus, that was the North Star. And all the way on the southern horizon, on the far south, due south, you had Orion. Orion would be seen hovering right above the horizon 17,000 years ago. And then Cygnus was the North Star that was always seen. And Cygnus has always been seen as a bird of some kind. So that is basically, and then, well, when it got to Cygnus, it was a judge. And if it passed the judgment, which meant that it was good, it didn't have any regrets, it had removed all of its sorrow and so on, it could then pass through a portal to the other world. If the soul failed that, if the soul was judged as unworthy, it could be then flicked back down to earth, where it would reincarnate. Or it could be sent to the underworld for purification. That is in the belief system also. Now, go ahead, ask the question.
No, I was just going to say, like, the parallels there between, like, the imagery of the bird and that process, that journey with ancient Egyptian culture and, like, Thoth. Is it Thoth? Yeah, Thoth.
Thoth, yeah.
Yep. And then the getting sent back, when we had Graham Hancock on the show, he was talking about, I'm going to get this wrong, forgive my pregnancy brain, but was it like the ancient Sumerians, like, you will have a body, you will learn lessons, you can remember all the lessons whenever you want to, like, that was the sort of like purpose of life, was to come here to learn those lessons, and you'll keep coming back until those lessons are learned. And so it's kind of incredible, like, the parallels between these cultures and, you know, these ancient beyond, like, I mean, 17,000 years, you know, pre-Younger Dryas, like, that's unbelievable. That's beautiful in so many ways.
In Graham's book, America Before, he talked about the Path of Soul, the book Path of Souls that I wrote, and that is where he saw the parallels at a conference, the parallels between the Egyptian material and the Native American. And at a conference this was about 2019. We were at a conference in Little Rock, Arkansas with Graham, and Andrew Collins was there. And Graham stood up and showed my book and said he wanted to credit me with basically turning him on to this idea. And he realized that this belief system, it apparently was all over the world. It's very old, and he was not aware of it in Native America. Now, I honestly wasn't aware of it in Native America either, and it wasn't known. All this wasn't known till roughly 2004 or so, and how it was all figured out is a story in and of itself. We could spend 2 hours talking about how it was all figured out. But what we didn't say, one more thing before I'll let you guys ask whatever you want to, and that is, there were some really important leaders. They may have been chiefs, they might have been medicine people, shaman, whatever. And they really wanted them to not necessarily reincarnate, but they wanted them to resurrect. So a lot of people think American mounds are all dirt. And I've heard
Yeah.
over and over, Native Americans in the East didn't use stone. They didn't build anything with stone. That is utter complete nonsense. They built stone chambers inside of mounds, very well built. These are excavated mounds revealing the stone chambers. And of course, they've removed the roofs of them, so you can't see the roof. And there are hundreds of these that were excavated. Some mounds had exterior stone walls around them, just under the surface of the dirt. And this is an example of one. This one's in Ohio. This is a series of these stone chambers or vaults inside mounds. The far bottom right-hand side is the roof of one, where they've dug down to the roof, but they haven't opened it up yet. So there were loads and loads of these. And one of I had mentioned that some mounds had, that's way up there. I have a lot of photos here.
Oh, you can show them all. Like, I mean, we'll take up your entire evening with this stuff. This is amazing.
Yeah, go ahead. Ask a question.
Yeah, let's Sammy, will you pull up? There's a couple super chats in here, and I just want to remind people they can get questions in. Will you bring up a couple of those? I think we had one from our mutual friend Will before we get too far ahead.
Yes. This one right here.
Hey,
Dr. Little might be the most underrated person on X. Needs to be on Rogan next. Thanks for having him on.
I couldn't agree more.
Thank you.
I think that would be a fascinating sit down.
The question from him?
Yeah, there's a question. Yeah.
Dr. Little, do you think it's possible that Casey's abilities can be explained by some sort of advanced version of savantism?
Well, he had eidetic memory. That's one of the things that that has definitely been shown. Eidetic memory is the term meaning photographic memory. Casey could look at books or material and literally then call it up in his mind and read it. And that was proven. There are some incredible stories about it. Edgar Casey was essentially a modern shaman. That's what I said before, and that's what he was. Everything he did, from this healing, the way he did it, the trances that he did, all the things he talked about, it's exactly what Native American shaman did. I mean, it's identical. So he had eidetic memory. It's very, very rare. True eidetic memory is exceedingly rare. It's more common in children, and then they seem to lose the ability at some point. But Casey had it pretty much his whole life. It was proven. A U.S. congressman who had been appointed ambassador to Peru, I believe it was, went to Hopkinsville where Casey lived, and actually Casey's father made a bet with him. Edgar was, I think, 14 at the time, and his father made a $50 bet with the congressman that Edgar could memorize a 150-page speech that this congressman had given to Congress right before he left with this ambassadorship. The newspapers came. I mean, newspapers documented what Casey did. That's the interesting thing. So there were several newspapers at the school where Casey stood up, had memorized, he never looked at the paper. It was all handwritten. It was 150 handwritten pages. And these were the terms of the bet, that Edgar's father would let Edgar go to sleep and he would read the speech to him, this handwritten speech. And so he gave the paperwork back to the congressman. The next day, they brought Casey in. He stood up in the middle of the schoolroom. The newspaper said there were 70-some people in the room that witnessed this. And according to the congressman, Edgar repeated it word for word, not a single mistake. Casey also, people say he was illiterate. The man was not illiterate. The man worked in a bookstore, for God's sakes. He did drop out of school very early to help the family, but Edgar read the Bible from one end to the other every single year. And somebody that's illiterate doesn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And
especially that version of it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah. He read newspapers every day. But he was a very down to earth man. He went fishing all the time. He smoked cigars all the time. He didn't follow his own advice. And initially, he didn't even know what all this was about. He became a photographer. He won awards for photography. One of his sons got burned very badly in an explosion, and he went into his trance that he does and came up with a remedy. There are many of these highly documented stories. In fact, the Journal of the American Medical Association, which is usually called JAMA, they called Casey in an editorial the father of holistic medicine, because American holistic medicine really started with Casey. And they published articles. They cited 3 articles published in medical journals that had looked at Casey's health remedies. And that's what he's best known for, the health stuff. People love to talk about his Atlantis stuff, and his so-called predictions and all.
Right.
But he was best known for the health stuff. And they found an 83 to 85% success rate in his holistic health remedies. And I have met and sat down with and spoken with people that had readings from Edgar Casey for health problems in recent years. There was a guy who's no longer alive now who won a Pulitzer Prize for his writing. He also made a number of documentaries. He started finding these people and taking them to the Casey organization and having them speak or come in. And he started running them down to see how much of this is really true, what he could find. So there's still people around. But anyway, Casey did talk about Mounds a bit. He said they started in the South and went to the North. And he said that, and this is where I'm going to end with Casey here, and we'll move on to other. I don't really want to talk about him too much here. But he said that mound building started in the South, and then it went north. However, he said that around 1924. And in 1924 to roughly the textbooks I read were about 1980 till 24 to 1980. All the textbooks said mound building started in the Northeast and in Ohio and went south. But everything in the South was older or was younger than what was up north. And of course, now it's the exact opposite. And his grandson, we interviewed his grandson named Edgar Evans Casey. He was 89 when we did a filmed interview with him in Virginia Beach. I asked him, did you guys ever sit around the table and talk about mounds? Because they started out in Kentucky and then they went to Alabama. And there were mounds around them in Alabama. And it was later when they moved to Virginia Beach. And he said, well, it wasn't a big discussion, but he said, yeah, they would sometimes talk about mounds. And he knew some Native Americans. In Kentucky, they knew some Native Americans. But everything about the man shows that he was basically a shaman. Wow. So let's switch gears a little.
This is fascinating. And I guess one question, and then get back to some of the detail stuff, is why do you think, with such an extensive amount of history here in America, why don't we learn about this in school?
Learn about mounds?
Yeah, mounds and these cultures and things dating back 9,000 years.
That's a good question. In the Mound Encyclopedia, and I know I'm doing the 3rd edition now, it's close, but in that, the first line of the introduction, I believe, was there's a school book line that begins in 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. So I am 76 years old. So I started elementary school in the 1950s, long before any of you here were alive. I don't mean listeners. There's probably a few that are my age, maybe a bit older. But anyway, that's when history started. And all the history that we had, and actually, that's why we call everything before that prehistoric in America, and everything after it is called historic. So that's when time began, and the mounds were a mystery for a long time. Uh, Not all Native Americans, by the time the first settlers came in around the mid 1600s, it was like 1600 when the very first settlers came in on the East Coast, and then they slowly started moving to the West. And I mean, it's like the 1800s before people were were far out west. It took a long time.
Yeah.
But the Native American population by that time had plummeted. Where did I have the population here? There. If you look at the bottom of the left-hand side here, the population of the Americas was 57 to 150 million people in 1492. North America had a population, it is now believed, of roughly 20 million. A lot of people want to dispute that. They want to say, oh, no, it was like just like 1 or 2 million. But that actually comes out of a type of guilt, and a guilt that we literally killed. And the diseases that the Spanish went through the Southeast and the Southwest, up and down and up the coast, and through all of Florida, and they spread diseases. They didn't mean to spread diseases, but they spread diseases. And those diseases, the Native Americans had virtually no immunity to. And within one generation, 95% of the population was dead. And so imagine if you lived, let me go to get some interesting pictures here. Let's imagine that you lived in this mound site. And at the bottom of this mound site is the Mississippi River. This is a reconstruction that I had colorized. This is in the New Mound Encyclopedia, and this is what was in St. Louis, Missouri. The arch at St. Louis would be just to the left of this, and what is called the dome or the football field in downtown St. Louis would be just to the right of this.
Really?
Yes. It was all destroyed in the 1850s, literally bulldozed, and they used steam engines to dig it out.
That's I was able to visit Cahokia a few years ago now, and there's a point where I kind of you can walk up to the top. Yeah, amazing there, and you can actually see pretty far from the top up there, and
you can see the arch in downtown St. Louis.
Yeah, and so
you could have seen this tall mound in downtown St. Louis, and we know that a lot of the artifacts in Cahokia, particularly a lot of the large pipes, were made from Missouri red flint clay, which came from here. And this is one of the Cahokia sub-chiefdoms, or an outlier. It was part of the Cahokia kingdom. So imagine if you lived here, if you lived in this complex, and there were like 4,000 or 5,000 people living inside and outside the walls of this complex. This is a fortress.
Wow.
And okay, so you have a population of 5,000. And within very short period of time, 95% of those people die from horrible diseases. Their eyes will bleed. They vomit. They throw up. They have skin boils that pop up all over. Some of them go into convulsions.
Sounds apocalyptic.
It is apocalyptic. I mean, we called COVID, pretty much a horrible epidemic. But what happened to Native Americans was.
Do you know? Because I'm pretty sure I remember somewhat, but at Cahokia, at its peak,
50,000
was larger than London at the same time, and had a population in the hundreds of thousands.
Well, you'll have a lot of archaeologists debating that The core of Cahokia, which had approximately 120 mounds, there are 80 of those that are still there today. Only 80 have been found, but it had 120. And a lot of them were literally bulldozed in the 1920s and 1930s, and they quickly tried to buy them, but they weren't able to. Yeah, flattened for farmers. They get in the way of farming.
Yeah.
I know a lot about that, and we might get into that in a while about what farmers do about it.
Just as an off point, we're seeing that you just as kind of an off-topic point here that's in relation to that is if you travel through Peru, you can see that happening now. It's happening throughout Peru that there is ancient structures and things that are being bulldozed. You can see where they've been cleared for farmland.
Right.
On the coast between Lima and Nazca or Paracas.
So in this area of Cahokia with several square miles, you had a population, depending on what archaeology book you read or what report, somewhere between 10,000 and 25,000 people that lived inside the walls, but immediately outside the walls and all the surrounding area, there were other people living that did farming. It's called American Bottom, and it's some of the best farmland in the world. Incredible for corn. And so a number of people, 10, 20, 25,000 lived around it. And then they had all these outliers like St. Louis. East St. Louis had 50 mounds in it at one time. East St. Louis, which is right on the other side of the river from St. Louis. And then there are sites just to the north, just to the west, and just to the south, all part of it. But these are just some of loads of these sites, all of which just lost their population almost overnight. So
why haven't they reconstructed that site like other places?
Oh, man. First of all, they've tried this mound. This is Monk's Mound. Currently, the highest point on it, they say it's 100 feet tall. The earlier survey said it was 107 feet. There's a survey before that said it was 117 feet. Its base right now covers just a little over 14 acres, whereas the Great Pyramid at Giza covers almost 13 acres. So the base of Monk's Mound is larger than the base of the Great Pyramid. But the earlier report said that the base covered a little over 17 acres. But you can even see from this, there's been erosion. And there still is erosion today, and that's one of the problems. There are some sites that don't have much erosion. And there were some sites that were found literally intact at one time. There is a site, Moundville, Alabama, for example. This is an aerial taken of some of the mounds at Moundville. There's 23 mounds at Moundville. At the very top, you can see the old museum, which is no longer there. In the right-hand side, that is a shaman's mound. And this is that same mound. That's what it looks like from a large mound. This is a small reconstruction of the site, and it was a fortress. Moundville, Alabama. 5,000 people lived at Moundville. That is the estimate by mainstream archaeologists. So imagine 95% of the people die. How many people are left then of a population of 5,000?
I mean, it's kind of crazy that this also dispels this whole, like we were taught, literally, I was taught in school when we were studying American history that all Native American cultures were hunter-gatherer populations, and that's just so fundamentally untrue when you look at the kind of architecture that they've constructed here.
Absolutely. And I'll show you the interior of some of these in a minute, reconstructed based on what the Spanish saw when they went in. And part of the problem was the Spanish chronicles were not translated into English for the general masses for a long time. So most of the people in America didn't know what the heck the Spanish found when they actually walked on a lot of these mounds and went inside the temples. but you'd have 250 people left. That's what you'd wind up with.
Yeah.
And so if you're living in a town that say had 5,000 people and there's 4,750 dead bodies here, what are you going to do? And you're young. You're very young because you have an immune system that resisted all these diseases. All the older people are dead. Most of them wound up dying, they haven't been buried. They're laying in their houses. They're laying in the temples. What are you going to do? Are you going to bury those 4,000 people, or are you just going to leave? And that's what happened. So they abandoned these sites. We know that. They abandoned the sites. And over time, in the next generation and so on, they saw some of these sites as being places where bad things happened. And so for some of the people who survived, it was all the memories were lost. This, by the way, is the large mound. Let me go back to this one. If you look at this large mound with an elevated plaza, if you look at that one, this is that mound. It is 62 feet tall. And that's Andrew Collins and I standing off here in the left. Andrew Collins, the British author. And then if you look way over to the right, you can see a guy who's just walked down this mound. So that gives you an idea of how big this is.
So were all of them used, were some of them just used as literal platforms?
Yes.
Or were all of the, okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Some of them, all of these had structures on them, and that is known from archaeological excavations. And you can they could excavate the top of these, and they didn't have to destroy the whole mound to do it. They would find post holes because they built these structures from wood. The one at Cahokia, for example, the building at the top of Cahokia was 50 feet tall itself. It had logs embedded into it. It was 50 feet tall. They believe it was 100 feet long.
Wow.
So it's a 5,000 square feet on the first floor alone.
Good,
and then it probably had additional floors on it.
God, imagine trying to clean all of that. No.
Well, so this is what the interior of one looked like. This is the Calusa Chief Carlos. This is a reconstruction based on what the Spanish said they saw when they met this chief in the year 1567, I believe it was. And this is at Mound Key, Florida. And this is how he dressed. This is his wife next to him. They wore these headdresses. I mean, these people dressed really well. All of the Spanish chronicles said that they were clean, exceedingly clean. I suspect the Spanish smelled really bad because they wore the same outfits and the same armor all the time. But Native Americans tended to bathe every day. And that's from the Spanish chronicles. And they said they wore very bright outfits. In this building where King Carlos was met, there were 1,000 people.
Wow.
It was that big.
That's like a Buckingham Palace type stuffing.
It was gigantic. It was this structure was circular. And this is where Carlos did his ruling from. They talked about the mat that he sat on. Some of these mats have actually been excavated from mounds too, the remains of them. Oh, wow. The roof, everything, it's all based on what the Spanish said. This is a reconstruction from the National Park. Oh, okay. So this is in the Florida Natural History Museum in Gainesville, next to the University of Florida. This is made by National Park Service, and it is their reconstruction of what a small temple mound looked like at Ocmulgee, Georgia. And this is some of the ways the people dressed, and the artifacts that are shown here are based on artifacts that have been dug from the mounds at Ocmulgee. And I've always been interested. I was interested in this in the 1980s. What the heck are these three things on the top of this temple? at the very top of it. And this shows up again and again and again in reconstructions, and it shows up in what the Spanish wrote, and the French wound up seeing the last mound culture, which was in Natchez, Mississippi, at the Fatherland site in Natchez. And they actually saw the three, and what those are birds. Whoops, sorry. Those represent large birds at the top. And it has to do with, some of it has to do with the path of souls. So questions?
Wow.
I'm just rolling along. I'm just going
Yeah,
wherever these.
what's standing out to me, because I visited some of these sites, not some of the major ones,
Right.
Cahokia and stuff like that, is that, something I mentioned earlier about the reconstruction and stuff. It always struck me as it's kind of seeming like, because, any other major site around the world, they find, especially something as big as Cahokia, they'll reconstruct it. That's just common practice, it seems like.
Well, we don't. There's no money here. There's not enough money. I had a conversation with the site director at Chucalissa in Memphis not long ago about even rebuilding the site to where they had it back in the 1980s. This is Chucalissa. This is a reconstruction of it, and I actually have a video where and this thing has been, I don't know why it's jerky. It wasn't jerky when I put it in, but so I'm just going to scroll it. I'm going to get very quickly here. That is a platform mound. There used to be a large temple that they reconstructed on it. And here, if you look off to the right, you see a wall. And they used to have reconstructed buildings there. And this building right here, that is the interior of a burial mound. And
why did they remove or wall off the reconstructed areas?
I'll show you in a minute. I need to give a trigger warning for people too before I show what was in there. But so here at Chucalissa, you see this depressed square in the center. That was a ball court. That is the plaza area, but it was a ball court. And there were 3 mounds here to the left, but all up and down here, they had buildings reconstructed. And so I asked the site director about it. I have offered to pay for it myself to reconstruct the whole thing, to try and put it back. But it's not, as he said, that's not our priority. So that's the story with that. I would love to reconstruct the site. And here is what was on the right-hand side. This is a trigger. Don't look at this unless you want to see this is real. So on the right-hand side, this is what was inside that building. And students used to go in here and gawk at the skeletons that were on display. I've got other photos of this, excuse me, including a photo of the archaeologist sitting on top of these. On the left side is what used to be displayed in the University of Alabama's museum at Moundville, Alabama. And of course, they've closed that off. And this is just one, that is just one of the fairly large skeletons that they once had on display. And in 1990, all of these displays of skeletons were removed from these sites. There were a couple sites that fought it for several years. And I think the last ones closed these skeletal remain displays around the year 1994 or so. There is one site, I'll show you a video that I don't put on Twitter. Nope, it's not that one. And again, if you're easily offended, this is going to show skeletons, but they're plastic skeletons. And this is a site in Arkansas. This is a site that, Wolf, if you ever do a tour and you go to like Arkansas or something, or in that area, you need to go to this site. It's called Kadoha, Kadoha. And it's about 10 miles from Crater of Diamonds State Park, which is the only place in the United States where you can literally go and dig for a diamond. And if you find a diamond, there's a diamond field, you get to keep it.
I've read about this place, and it's on my list for when we're homeschooling. That is where we will be going.
If you ever go there, go to the Kadoha site, which is in downtown Murfreesboro, Arkansas. So at that site, this is private. This is a private site, privately owned, never taken any federal money. Now, if you've ever taken federal money, even $1, you're not private. This place sells artifacts also.
Will, if you're in the chat, can you figure out how far away these sites are from where, I can't remember his name, that famous UFO abduction that he convinced me or used to convince me? Because that would be one heck of a tour.
All right. So this place was excavated in the 1960s, exactly in a way the early Smithsonian used to do it in the 1800s. So what I did was I took you up to the top of this mound, and they dug a pit straight down in the middle. And those are plastic skeletons, but the pottery and so on is exactly where they found it. And here is another. I'll show you one more of these. This site's dated to about AD 1400. So I took a lot of time here to let people read the sign. And again, it's a plastic skeleton with these pits are about 12 feet deep. Wow. There are 4 of these at the site. There are about 7 mounds on the immediate grounds, but there's loads of hundreds of mounds in this area, literally hundreds. Arkansas is one of the states when we ask for specifics on how many mounds they had, how many mound sites. Arkansas is one of the few states that responded. The state archaeologist. So did Colorado state archaeologist, New Hampshire, a couple of others, but some just refused to give any information at all. Although I got it anyway. So anyway.
Good. Guys, I will be right back. This baby is kicking directly.
Well, I understand.
2 minutes.
So
we had a question from the chat. How far down in the pit were they found?
About 12 feet, roughly 12 feet down. That's this one. So, and I think it even says that at the top. It might say that. Well, I didn't take a picture of the sign, but it's 12 feet.
Let me take you off in kind of a wild direction here around some of this stuff. What is, or have they found giants, bones, things like that?
Okay. Well, I didn't.
Kay's going to be pissed at me for asking this when
No,
with her gone, but
okay. Yeah. I could have gotten the only photos ever taken of them. There is one photo that I'm aware of a 7-foot skeleton that was removed by an archaeologist in 1961, and that was the God, I can see the name, but I can't remember. It'll pop in my head, but it's in Ohio, and the Smithsonian started a mound survey project, and it ran for 7 years. It ended in 1894, but they continued to do excavations after that. But anyway, in the Smithsonian project, they excavated approximately just under 3,000 mounds. And in those excavations, no one knows how many skeletons they actually found. Or how many they actually looked at. Some estimates are like 1 million that they wound up seeing 1 million skeletons or skeletal remains. But a lot of them were cremated. And there were bundles of skeletons and piles of them. So they don't really know. But there were 17 in their reports, 2 annual reports. They documented 17 skeletons that were from roughly 7 feet to 7 feet 8 inches tall. 7'8" was the tallest one that they found. 17. So that's from the Smithsonian. So those, even today, there are people say that, oh, they didn't know how to measure skeletons. There's a thing called spreading, and it has to do with when one of these vaults, say a stone vault, the top collapses, and then it falls on a skeleton, and then it spreads the skeleton apart. They knew about spreading, but that's one of the arguments, or that they found mastodon bones. Now, there are over 1,000 newspaper reports. Jim Vieira, for example, who did the show on the History Channel I think it was In Search of Skeletons or Giants, and he's done other shows on it. He wrote a couple books on it. Jim is a good friend, and I've known him for quite a while. Good guy, very down-to-earth guy. He's a stonemason, by the way. Jim found over 1,000 of these newspaper reports. And I think as of now, there's roughly 1,400 of them. And in those newspaper reports, there's loads of them that say 7 feet. And then there are some that say 18 feet, 30 feet. A lot of them talk about gigantic femurs and so on. There are statistical calculations that you can do on human femurs to estimate the size of the person. But that isn't what the Smithsonian did. And those 17, they were physically measured in situ, in place. And it wasn't because of spreading. It wasn't because of freezing or any of that. Constant freezing, and this is something a skeptic said, oh, they've been frozen and then thawed and frozen and thawed for hundreds of years, and that makes them get bigger and bigger over time. And that's not that's actually what a skeptic wrote. And I said, well, by your logic, then they should become as big as dinosaurs. Then they should get bigger. And why do they stop? Why 7 feet or so?
Yeah.
And they shatter. What happens with bones when they freeze and thaw, and it goes over and over, is they shatter. They split apart. They don't get bigger. But anyway, there were some early mastodon bones before they knew about mastodons that were recovered, but not very many. So Andrew Collins and I spent quite a bit of time together. He was here in Memphis, where I live, with us. And we decided to run down some of these newspaper reports and actually go to the sites of some of the newspaper reports and find the original newspaper article, what it was based upon, and run it to its source. Now, a lot of those newspaper sources go like this. 3 men outside of town were digging a cellar, and they found two 10-foot long skeletons. That's it. That's what the report is. That's one of them. And there was one of those in the county where my grandmother was born, in Pennsylvania.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And that one literally said 2 men digging a cellar found these giant 8-foot skeletons as they dug down. And Pennsylvania does, in fact, have reports of large skeletons by archaeologists, but not anything beyond 7 feet. There are a lot of reports by more modern archaeologists that are, say, 6'6", 6'7" to 6'8", where lots of skeletons that size have been found. And Andrew and I ran down a lot of the newspaper reports. Unbelievable where some of these led us to incredible hoaxes of a real estate hoax in Florida. I mean, incredible. In the book Path of Souls, I wrote about these. I even put a picture of the guy that did the hoax. He caused the Smithsonian to come down on an island. It's the Weeden Island hoax. where the guy built a bridge to Weedon Island, owned by a doctor by the name of Weedon, and that's how it got its name. He charged people a nickel to go across the bridge and watch the Smithsonian excavate the mounds to find the giant skeletons. But it was a hoax. And the guy that actually perpetrated the hoax, there was a murder on the island that a maid pointed to him and said that she had been a witness. And the maid then disappeared and was never seen again.
Really?
And then that guy left Florida and he went to St. Louis, and that's where he lived till he died.
Oh my God.
It's a a lot of these stories are real. They're interesting in themselves.
I want to hear the drunk history version of that full story. If I ever get to do drunk history, not that I even really drink.
There is a drunk history. His real estate thing, he was trying to sell lots to people on Weedon Island. Not a single person bought a lot, but hundreds of people went over to watch the Smithsonian. And there's photos of people lined up. They're all in suits like people wore back in the 1800s and early 1900s.
Yeah.
They're wearing suits and, really nice hats and all, and they're looking down, and the archaeologists are down in the holes, and it's just amazing. But okay, when he didn't sell anything, he was going broke. So he took Whedon's house, which he bought, and he turned it into a speakeasy. during the Prohibition, he turned it into a speakeasy. And then this is when the murder occurred. The speakeasy burned down, and he had it rebuilt, and that's when the maid appeared, and then the maid disappeared, and then he disappeared. And they didn't know where he went, but he turned up.
Make a good movie.
There's loads of stories like this. But that's basically wild. Okay, with the Smithsonian thing, there's one area in West Virginia along the Kanawha River Valley around South Charleston, West Virginia, both sides of the Kanawha River. There's a whole bunch of mounds, roughly 50 mounds. And there were 7 skeletons recovered by the Smithsonian, and some of them they made drawings of. And the 7 skeletons were all over 7 feet. The tallest one, they said, was 7 feet 6 inches tall. The museum in South Charleston, which has all of the materials about it and some of the photographs and so on, says he was 7 feet 8 inches tall. They actually will tell you that when they're very angry at the Smithsonian for a variety of things because they can't get any of the artifacts back to display. But anyway.
They have a habit of doing that, don't they?
Yeah.
Well, I did a statistical evaluation of that.
Yeah.
I did a statistical evaluation of how many skeletons they would have had to have found in that area, because one of the things people always say about the 7-footers, I mean, I'm sticking with the tallest one that I know that's valid is 7 feet 6 to 7 8.
That's insane. That is an insane height.
Well, it is large, but there was a guy that was 8 feet 11 up until I'm not sure when Wadlow died. But so there are tall people, and people say, well, look at the NBA. Well, the NBA has not had that many 7-footers.
Yeah.
Height is the most exaggerated characteristic that exists. And high school used to be terrible with it in college. But now the NBA requires that they be measured very carefully. So there aren't that many, but you don't see many in the NBA. It's very rare that you see them. They're 7'6", 7'8". So here's the thing. The actual modern statistics are it's 1 of every 174,000 people reaches 7 feet. 1 of every 174,000. So how many skeletons would you need to pull out of the ground to find just 7 if it's statistical? You need roughly multiply 7 times roughly 200,000. You need about 1.5 million skeletons.
Okay.
Well, they removed 74 skeletons out of these mounds to find the 7. Statistically, it is not by chance. There is something going on, and there is an archaeologist, a prominent archaeologist, who is a skeptic, He can be very caustic at times. I like the guy a lot. His name is Andrew White, but he can be really caustic and sarcastic. But
British.
Andy said, okay, this is a statistical evaluation is one of the few things that I can work with in here and I like. And he actually called this, he said, what you've generated here is the Adena elite hypothesis. All those mounds were from that where they found the 7-footers are Adena era mounds dating to about 1000 BC. They had stone chambers like you're seeing here. They were all in stone chambers. And the idea was, I'm going back to actually something I said very early in this discussion, that if you had a powerful leader and you wanted that leader and he was dead, you wanted him to come back in that same body, you would carefully bury the body like the Egyptians did.
Right.
And you would want, that is so that the body could come back to life. That's not reincarnation. You want the soul to re-enter that body and the body to transmogrify itself and become whole again. So that's the idea. If you were an elite member of society and you were important, they generally did not cremate you like they did almost everybody else. They put you in these tombs so they could preserve your body so you could come back. And notice there's entrances here. The person then could have gotten out if necessary.
So basically what you're saying is, like, if you were very tall, you were more likely to be preserved because you were more likely to be a leader.
Well, that's one of the things. I cited statistics in there that with elections, this is a good way to look at it. In general, with elections, the taller you are, the greater the odds are you'll be elected. I know that's bizarre, but it's true.
It's true.
And if you look at corporate leaders, corporate leadership, the taller people are, the greater the odds are they'll move up in corporate leadership. They'll become management. And I've watched that in local politics. I've worked in government for quite a while. And it's just a truism. It's just one of those things. But Andrew Collins and I wrote a book called Denisovan Origins that came out in 2019. And in that book, this Adena elite thing was looked at. And we believe that the Adena elite had a lot of Denisovan DNA.
That would make sense as well with, like, when you look at sort of the Native American, like the physiological structure, plus where, everyone thinks of Denisovan, they think of Asia.
Yes. Yeah. The Denisovans were in fact Asian. We believe that the Denisovans, of course, eventually disappeared, but their DNA continued because they interbred. And we believe they became the Solutrean culture in France and Spain. And as the Solutrean culture collapsed around 16,000 years ago, some of them wound up going to like the Orkney Islands. Where I was in Orkney just a couple years ago. And eventually, some of them were in Scandinavia, some of the survivors. And when I say survivors, of course, it's their descendants. They're interbreeding their descendants who had some Denisovan DNA. And then eventually, they made it over to the eastern shore of America. Probably the first ones came in around Virginia Beach, around the Chesapeake Bay, and they became the Clovis culture. Because most of the Clovis points found are on the East Coast. The oldest Clovis points, there are actually studies that have the dates of the subsurface layer date where the Clovis points have been found. They've calculated those. The oldest ones are on the East Coast. The youngest ones are on the West Coast. The youngest Clovis points, that means the ones that are the most recent, are like in Washington State, further up. And of course, because they've been found in Washington state, most archaeologists will say that proves that Clovis came across from Beringia back during the at the end of the Ice Age when a land bridge occurred. But anyway, that's another story. Hang on 1 second. And like I told you guys, my wife has just entered here, and I need to go for just a couple minutes and handle a dog that just had surgery.
We're going to try to wrap our minds around everything you just said.
Okay.
And then, we're ready for you.
Let me give you another picture.
Pop you off.
All right.
Oh, sorry, Sammy.
It's okay.
Wow. This is wild, guys.
It is.
Like, I mean, I don't even know where to begin. Kind of wild.
I told him when you left, I asked the question about giants, and then I was like, oh man, Kay's gonna hate me for jumping into giants as soon as she left. But those are crazy numbers to think. What he was talking about with the breakdown, that amount of 7 foot plus bodies found out of 70, 7 out of 70, 75 or 6 or something bodies, 7 of them were over 7 feet. And we're not even asking about the ones that are over 6 feet. That's wild.
I'm looking up now how many people in the US right now are estimated to be 7 feet or more than 7 feet tall. So it's about 400 million people in the country. Only about 85 to 150 people are over 7 feet tall right now.
Out of 400 million, there's less than
400 million. Isn't that insane? Like, it's literally, even if that's a conservative estimate.
You know, when you see one, I saw a guy that was over 7 feet the other day at church. It's wild.
That's incredible.
He had to duck through the doorway.
I feel like I don't know. I've never done like the Ancestry and Me thing, or any of those types of I mean, my people have just been where they're at for like ever, so I don't really need to. But I feel like at some point they're gonna have to start looping into Denisovan DNA to like those studies, even though it's clearly gonna be the people who are like super tall, because my wedding ring's stuck on because my hands are so fat.
When I was bartending, the place that I was bartending at we like hosted the football teams and all of the recruitment teams. So all of the coaches, when they were trying to recruit these kids, it was just always, I was like the smallest person in the room. It's just the largest humans, the most amount of large humans when you are around football guys, basketball guys. It's
Sammy's borderline
crazy.
I was gonna say, how tall are you, Sammy?
We're like the same height.
8.
I'm like 4'5", yeah.
Oh yeah. That's wild. Yeah, well, John is 6'4", and I thought, like, when we met, I was like, tall guy, love it, love a tall guy. What? And then I met all of his friends, and all but like 2 of them are like 6'3", 6'2", 6'4". I think he's got one friend who's 6'8", which is like, and he's like the skinniest guy ever. And you see him like riding a tractor, and he can like barely fit inside the thing. But it is like, there's like a little concentration. Oh yeah, I was gonna say, isn't Will supposed to be like ginormous as well? Your brother is 6'8".
Will's only like 6'2".
Will's only 6'2".
I'm teasing. He's like 6'5". It's been a running joke since last week. Sam got him.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
No, Will makes me look tiny. In fact, I was looking through some pictures. Yeah, he said, "Shit." I was looking through some. He's in the comments. Pictures the other day, and I came across. We went through Peru together, and there's a picture we took next to this plane, and it's like Will, me, and then Nikki and Joaquin. It's just like this. Will's just looming over everyone. So I think, if you've never seen somebody that's like 7 feet, it's crazy to stand next to them.
I don't know if I have. Like, even in LA, like, I don't think I've ever spent time with someone or been around someone 7 feet tall.
Yeah, man.
It's hard to comprehend.
This is crazy, the whole Mal culture thing and stuff like that. Well, I was, and we got him back. So let me just ask.
Yeah.
Hey, there was something I was going to say earlier. This feel that I got from the sites that I visited here in the States was, as far as the constructing the sites, was that it felt like it's not being done because it adds legitimacy to this huge history. Because then it's right now, most of these sites that you go to, even Cahokia, they're just these mounds, and it's like you just walk up to them, and then it's just like a plaque, and that's it. But if you reconstructed the site, there'd be this whole, putting out of information of the site. There'd be this greater understanding of the history, and it's almost like legitimizing the prehistory that existed here. And that was a feeling that I got. That's not to say that that's factual or anything like that, but if you reconstructed these mound sites and cities and things like that, then people start learning about it to a greater degree, instead of it being a pull off on the side of the road on a road trip that you just hop out of your car, look at, and keep going.
Yeah.
I agree. I would love to see a lot of sites. I think we should have them in regional areas. They need to be all the way across the country. But it's money, and the truth is, a lot of people just don't care. There's another issue too, and that's with like the Chucalissa thing that I mentioned. They would have to get involvement with several Native American tribes to rebuild it. They would have to have approvals, and I don't know how many tribes. It used to be just the Choctaw were the only ones. There used to be Choctaw that lived on the site when it actually had the buildings and the temple reconstruction on the top. There were Choctaw that lived there in 4 apartments that are still there. Nobody lives in the apartments anymore, and it's in bad repair. It's in ill repair. But they tore down all the buildings, all the structures, because they simply didn't have the money to maintain it.
Right.
And that is what I think most archaeologists would say, that it's an issue of money. And then it's complicated because of the regulations and the orders that archaeologists have to follow in terms of collaborating with Native Americans, which I'm not saying is a bad thing. It's not.
And by the way, and I do want to say this too, because as anybody that's been following my content for the last year, they know that I've been in a bit of a back and forth with archaeologists over my video on reconstruction. So I'm not advocating for these sites to be reconstructed necessarily. I'm just saying it's weird to have a site like Cahokia that doesn't get reconstructed when it could be a major tourist attraction. And only in America am I seeing that in regards to sites like this, because everywhere else in the world, when they find a site, eventually it's reconstructed. So I'm not advocating for the reconstruction of these sites necessarily. I don't know that that's always a good thing. I just find it weird to have something like Cahokia that's this massive complex that hasn't been reconstructed in a way that's making someone money.
Even if it's like tourism, like a touristy trap thing, like we have a few places in Wales where we know that we've had ancient Celtic cultures that they've built, and they put up the little like wattle and daub houses, not made with the original wattle and daub, because that would not be allowed because it's mostly pea. But like they put it up for like little tourist traps, so kids can go on their school field trip and see it. Like it doesn't have to be like a full reconstruction in the way that it's happened at like some of the sites that you've been to, Mike. There's a difference between putting concrete in to an ancient pyramid and completely destroying the chance of accurate analysis thousands of years into the future, and putting together something that would at least be representative and more explanatory as to like the significance of the site, because most people aren't going to take the time to even read the placard.
Yeah,
they're just going to see the little hill and be like, oh, look at that little hill,
I know,
and be like, it's a mound.
This picture is what it would take to just rebuild. That's Monk's Mound. That's it. Remember, there's still 80 mounds there, and all those mounds had, all those mounds, but a couple had buildings on them. And the top here, it doesn't even show you can tell that that's about 50 feet high on the top, that building is. But this is what it would take. And that you're looking at a lot of money there. And then there were miles and miles of palisade walls. It was a fortress. You got to understand, these places are fortresses. They had walls around them. And then the complication like this, Shiloh battlefield. Shiloh was the scene of one of the bloodiest Civil War battles of all time, of the whole Civil War. But it has an ancient Indian mound complex on it right by the Tennessee River. And when the National Park Service excavated it not that many years ago, they found that the mounds were covered in red, just like those in the Mayan lands were, in Guatemala and in the Yucatan. And in some cases, if you look at the mound up here in the top center, it had alternating layers of colors. Lines of alternating colors. And the National Park Service actually generated a picture of Cahokia because they speculate that the mounds at Cahokia, which look like truncated pyramids, truncated means it's a flat top, that's all it means, but it's built like a pyramid out of earth and then with a flat top. But they believe all the ones at Cahokia also had these color bands in them, different horizontal bands of different colors. So all of this, a lot of that's not speculation, but a lot of it would be very difficult and very, very expensive to duplicate today. It could be done, and I'm sure that they could wind up getting enough money to do it. I don't know if, in fact, that's something they really want to do.
Right.
And I think in terms of like priorities within Native American communities,
some of the reservations, Pine Ridge, are so poor, and it's not a priority for them either. And it's a culture that, aside, even after the Spanish went through and 95% of the population died off, after that they were driven away, and treaty after treaty was made with them, which was broken. Native Americans will often tell you that every treaty the United States ever signed with them has been broken. And honestly, I don't know of any treaties that we signed with them that were kept. Everything, it's often about gold. It's gold, land, and oil, or uranium in some cases now. The Trail of Tears actually started. It was the Trail of Tears started because gold was found in Georgia. That's why. And Custer's Last Stand, that fame. And when I was a kid, Custer was portrayed as a hero. The whole idea of Custer being out there in the Black Hills was because it was Native American land which was ceded to them in a treaty. But gold was discovered. And once gold and silver were discovered, you had all these whites coming in to mine the gold and the silver, and they were attacked by the Indians. And so Custer and others were sent in to quell the natives. But every time it seems that that's happened over and over. And I don't know of any treaties we've kept. There's probably one or two, but I'm not aware of them.
No, and I think the one or two that probably were kept were so meaneningless that it's, why would we have ever heard of them?
So there were hundreds of sites like this. This is near Nashville. Wow. It was a walled fortress. It's called the Lebanon Mounds. That's its formal name. There's 2 or 3 mounds there. The state of Tennessee owns it. And they mow it maybe once or twice a year, so it gets overgrown. The most incredible site, I will show you this just to show you what this is, a reconstruction. Okay, this is a mound called Arcola, the large mound at Arcola, Mississippi. In this reconstruction, that is it. But here's a map of the mounds in Mississippi that a person can visit. Wow. This is just the state of Mississippi. Now, if we put every mound that existed in Mississippi, or every mound site, this side of the map, the whole left side, would just be solid. You wouldn't be able to see anything but these little mound logos. This would be totally solid too, down to here. And then there'd be a few through here. You just can't visit those. That's why they're not on this map. And then down here, it would be solid along the coast.
That's like, I mean, we're not talking about like, I don't know, this is kind of breaking my brain a lot. Because like the sociologist in me just looks at this and thinks, okay, so America was essentially one thriving megalopolis. Like it wasn't just, these sporadic nomadic tribes. Well, this was
what I learned in
normalized population.
Yes, it was. In school, what I learned in elementary school, and I took 2 courses in anthropology in college. That's all the anthropology I took. Never mentioned, mounds were never mentioned. I have a doctorate. I have a master's degree, and I have a doctorate in psychology, educational psychology, and counseling. And not once in my entire educational career, through all of high school, elementary school, high school, and college, were Native American mounds ever mentioned, or prehistory ever.
Yep.
But there were hundreds and hundreds, probably thousands. I'm going to count these because I'm going to do another book after the Mound Encyclopedia comes out, and it's on places like this. This, what you're looking at here, is a site in Louisiana. And it had that mound in the center, which has what looks like a point at the top. This comes from an illustration made in 1804, and this is what it looked like. So this site had a river on 2 sides, and then it had this huge earthen wall along the outside, a protective wall. And then all these mounds in the interior. The buildings had long ago been, fallen apart, because they're made out of wood. But there was an 87-foot tall cone on top of this mound. During the Civil War, the cone was cut down, and they put rifle pits in the top of the cone. And then long after the Civil War, the town was engaged in building a bridge over here, a couple bridges. So they needed dirt. So they brought in steam shovels and bulldozers, and they couldn't even use those to get that cone. It was earthen, but it was made out of a type of clay that gets as hard as concrete when it gets wet. And it was a perfect cone that went up 87 feet tall. I mean, it's incredible. But this whole thing has been destroyed, with the exception of this portion of this mound that I'm showing here, and it's only because there's a cemetery on the top. The rest of it's destroyed. But there were loads of these types of places all over the South, all over they were in the North. They got into Wisconsin, Michigan, Minnesota, Iowa, Illinois, you name it, Indiana. Let's see. Show a couple more. I know you're running out of time here.
No, I mean.
This is a site in Tennessee called Pinson Mounds, and that is called Saul's Mound. Saul's Mound is roughly 2,000 years old.
Do you do your own drone work?
No, I have several employees. I have an employee that does drones, and
That's cool.
This is a very, very, that's me walking around on it. That's a platform mound there. And then there's twin mounds. Twin mounds are these 2 burial mounds. And in 1987, I went here, talked to the site, did an interview with the site archaeologist, who then became the state archaeologist of Tennessee, and then later became the state archaeologist in Arkansas, Bob Mainfort. And they were excavating this, and they had plastic over it. And I got to go in it and took a lot of photos of it and so on.
That's so cool.
But that's a very interesting site. This
Amazing.
This is Winterville, Mississippi. That little dot down there in the bottom of it, walking up it, that's me. And in this case, I'm walking down. This is a 50-foot tall mound, which has been restored by the state of Mississippi. I've got to give Mississippi credit for this. Their plan is to restore all of these mounds. There were 23. I want it 23. Well, I think that's correct. Well, there were quite a few mounds here. This was the big central mound, but you get a good idea of what it looked like. I'll go back here. This is a mound out here too, and there was actually a plaza here, an elevated plaza that went to this mound originally.
That's incredible.
It is. I'll show you a video and look at how it looks from this other perspective. It makes it look like that ramp is really long, but when you go over to this perspective, you can see the ramp is big. It's very big.
Yeah.
But it doesn't look anything like that. But that's the same mound. It's just coming in a different angle. And out here, you can see another platform mound here where I have the pointer.
Yeah.
There's another one over here. There were some out here in the farmers' fields. Those have all been flattened. But yeah, it would be nice to restore these sites, but they'd have to put a building on here. Back in 1984, a year after I began the Mound Project, there was a building on top of this, a very big building. And I had a lot of dreams about that building, which is another story.
What happened to it?
Oh, wow.
It was torn down. It just ill repair. And it got to where it became a danger. You know, people could break into it. It might collapse or whatever. So they literally restored that mound. I don't know if they're ever going to put a building in it. This is a reconstruction of the place based on the actual archaeology. I remember I said there was a elevated platform to that other mound or to another mound here. This is supposed to be the Mississippi River, but the AI that did this did not realize it was a river. Yeah, there you go.
So I was going to ask, actually, so the mounds themselves, I mean, obviously there's like an architectural trend. Most of the maps that you've shown show proximity to watercourses.
Yeah, almost always.
So, and you know, obviously I come from the land of castles. You build on a hill for protection. So is the thinking, like, why mounds? Like, it sounds like such a stupid question, but I guess.
Well, mounds are found everywhere. We've seen them in Sweden. Platform mounds in Sweden that look identical to American mounds.
Really?
There are Roman mounds that look just like these are in England. I've been to those. Roman era mounds. There are mounds. I have an archaeologist in Ukraine who, when the Ukraine war started following me on Twitter, and we've interacted a lot. Privately and on Twitter. And Ukraine has 50,000 mounds in it itself. Ukraine, 50,000 mounds.
What the heck?
Wow.
Yes. So it's worldwide. They're found in Siberia. They're found in Canada. They're found in South America. They're also found in Egypt. Mounds were made in Egypt before the pyramids. The oldest known mound in Egypt dates to about 7,200 BC.
Wow.
So the oldest mound in the United States is almost 2,000 years older than the oldest in Egypt.
So I got to ask, what is the connection then if we're building megalithic structures at the same times that we're doing mounds? What am I asking here? What is the relation, if any at all, between the cultures that are building mounds, megalithic structures, and things like that in the choice of materials for these things?
Well, in some of these places, like in Mississippi, there's not a lot of stone.
Yeah.
Okay, there, it's like people often say, "Well, why don't they build stone mounds in Mississippi?" Well, there's not a lot of stone. There actually are stone mounds in Northwest Mississippi. There's quite a few, and there are loads of stone mounds in Alabama. Alabama has thousands of stone mounds, thousands of them. Actually in mountains around Oxford and Jacksonville. A Jacksonville State University archaeologist by the name of Harry Holstein, PhD, took me to a lot of the mounds, the stone mounds, and actually some earthen mounds in Alabama.
Wow.
It took a whole day and took us to them, and stone lines and so on. There is a relationship between these cultures. You have to go back to mounds being closer to God. It's like temples, supposedly. But I do think there's a protective bit to it. For example, that's why I pulled this up. This is an illustration of a mound at Colamoki, Georgia, that was built in the year 300. So it's pretty old. It's exceedingly steep. Today it's 56 feet tall because some years ago, the people who owned the property took 20 feet of dirt off the top. And their hope was to be able to farm the thing.
Yeah.
So it was originally 75 feet tall and very, very steep. But it had a wall. You can see this palisade wall around the edges of this thing, and the top of this thing is gigantic. I've walked on it and I have film on it, but it's so big you just think I'm outside. So this is a protective wall. It protected whoever was here, and there is a gigantic plaza area out there, and you can see for a long distance from there. And they didn't build these things in the woods. Let's go back to Cahokia. For example, you see trees all over the place here. These sites did not have trees. There was nothing impeding your vision for miles. And that is so you could see what was going on. And also, they had huge agricultural fields around these sites, with all of them, gigantic fields around them. And one thing I never did, I got to show you just one more thing. This is a site in Newark, Ohio. It still exists. This part of it, the circle and octagon, still exists. Over here in the center, or the lower center, this is known as the Great Circle. It exists. The Great Circle, it has a wall of earth forming. It is perfectly flat. The wall of earth is roughly 12 feet tall. It has an inside moat 7 to 10 feet deep. And then there's a mound right in the center that is supposedly, it's an eagle mound. So this is the Great Circle. This is my wife's photo starting at one part. Well, let me go back and show you. See, there's an entrance here to the Great Circle. I got my pointer on it. So my wife is standing like right here at the beginning of the entrance when she films this.
Okay.
And so we're going around these. This is part of the outer wall. That's me standing in a moat.
Whoa.
All right. So you can see the size of the outer wall. And if you look through the back here, you can see this outer wall of earth that goes all the way around. 30 acres it encloses. And you can see it way out there and here, and then it comes to this side. And you can see that part, this ending of it. Here's the moat. And then out here, they have this is the opening to it, the only opening. And that is a museum, which they're in the process of, they're going to tear it down. Because it impedes the view. They're going to put a new one there. But if we go back to this, let's look at this circle. This circle. Well, okay. So this circle is exactly, the Great Circle is exactly 30 acres with an inner moat and outer wall. It's identical to England's Avebury. We took Andrew Collins and his then wife to this site many years ago, around 2004, and he was absolutely astonished. The only thing that's different here is this site doesn't have the American site doesn't have the standing stones. At that time, Andrew actually was living in the center of Avebury in one of the houses and had a standing stone in his backyard.
Oh, that's so cool.
But he was absolutely amazed. He knew none of this existed. And most people, even people in this town, don't know this exists.
Wild.
In the 1800s, this was used to house the Ohio State Fair because there's only one way in.
Oh my gosh. That's wild.
It is. So you go here to the circle and octagon. I'm over on the left-hand side here. The octagon encloses 50 acres. It's very large. You could put 8 Roman Colosseums in here.
Good.
This circle has 20 acres. You could put the Great Pyramid inside of it, and you'd still have 7 blank acres. In the points of the octagon, 8 points of an octagon, the walls don't touch. There's an opening. But right on the inside, there's a truncated mound. So if you were standing in the exact center, all you can see is earth on the ground. That's all you can see is the earth. There's no way to see out. So this was a sacred enclosure. It was used for something. So I'm going to show you a film of it. And this film, let me make sure this is the right place. Yeah, okay. So where I am filming this from, if you go, let me go back here. I'm actually right here, and I'm starting by looking in this area where there was this building that was built there, and I'm on a platform. So I'm right here between the circle and the octagon. And so that's the building. This is a wall. This is a wall of the octagon coming up to where it attaches to the circle. This is one of the truncated pyramids that blocks the view. It's
so intelligent.
Oh yeah, this is the connector that goes to the circle, and you can see one of the walls of the octagon going out in this direction. Here's another one of the walls of the octagon, and again, that's 50 acres out there. And then it connects. I know you're running out of time.
No, not at all. I'm trying to stop my cat from walking into the shot.
And if you notice, it was a golf course. It was called Mounds. They turned it into a golf course. Yes.
What?
And here is where it connected to the circle. If you watch my pointer above this golfer's head, you can see the outer wall of the circle going out. You can see a little bit of it here through the trees. Through these trees, you can see a bit more of the wall. And that one encloses 20 acres, so we'll keep following it. Here's the other part of it going around. Today, we took a tour here this past July, and I swore that was the last tour I'm going to do. I'm doing one more this in March. I'm doing a tour in the Southwest for the Casey organization. It really is a favor to my wife. She's the one that agreed. Cool. Yeah, but that's it. I'm not doing any more tours. This is what
what they all say.
Yeah, I'm 7. I'm going to go on tours, but I'm not going to conduct them. So this is what the Ohio Historical Connection says it looked like. Ohio Historical Society originally made this. So this is the circle that has what's called the observation mound on it. That still exists with these little wings on it. It once had this outer wall. This is the octagon. You could stand here. They know there were poles in the center and poles on tops of the mounds. It had these walled walkways. So there's these walkways are 160 feet wide. They're uniform, 160 feet wide. On each side of these pathways or walkways, there's a wall of earth enclosing them. And it is 1.5 miles in distance to get to the circle. This is the great circle I showed you where I said that there's an eagle mound in the center, and it has a moat on the inside and so on. And there was a square here and a lot more, and a lot of that's been destroyed. This particular one is called the Great Hopewell Road by Bradley Lepper, who is the head of Ohio Archaeology. And it runs 56 miles to an almost identical circle and octagon in Chillicothe, Ohio.
Just like this.
Yes, 56 miles it goes to a down. And there's around 7 or 8 formations like this in Ohio alone that are similar. Some of them aren't an octagon, they're more of a square. Here is what this thing does. The moon, the lunar cycle takes 18.61 years for the moon to rise and set and so on, and have the lunar standstills in the exact same place. And so it is a predictor of the 18.61 year lunar cycle. This was figured out by 2 professors from Earlham University in Ohio, and it's now accepted in archaeoastronomy.
Wow, that's really cool.
So that's incredible.
Yes. So this site now is it's overgrown with trees. The Ohio Historical Society took it over January 1st of last year. This is it again. This is what it looked like before they took it over. And we took the tour here, among other places in Ohio. And it's kind of overgrown now and all weeds. So, of course, the golf course kept it in pristine condition. But Ohio Historical Connection says they're going to cut down all the trees and make them get it back to what it originally was. But when it was originally used, like they show in this illustration, it didn't have any vegetation in it at all. It had sand. These had different colors of sand, different colors of sand on the walls. And I know you don't have enough time for me to explain all this, but there were rituals held here that evoked spiritual manifestations. And there is a long-standing belief that spirits move in straight lines.
Yeah.
And spirits, the movement of spirits can be channeled with earthen walls, because earth is the most primordial form of spiritual nature. It is the most primordial spiritual substance. Rocks are solidified spiritual energy. Water is flowing spiritual energy. Fire is the release of spiritual energy. Crystals, the pure quartz crystals are condensed spiritual energy. And all of those elements were used in the rituals when they were manifesting spiritual forces for whatever their rituals were intended to do. So these were spaces designed to channel the movements of spirits and souls, and to keep them from escaping in some situations. That is, to confine them so they're not released.
That's wild, because I was just looking into some of this the other day. China has a ton of, I mean, the exact same type of belief systems regarding spirits and energy.
Yeah.
And those walls that they build in front of entrances and stuff to block spirits look awfully similar to some of this.
So here's another example of those pathways. And I'll start with this is the big survey. This is Portsmouth, Ohio up here. This is Kentucky, South Shore, Kentucky, and I don't remember the name of the little town here. And we have been to all these sites. The mayor of Portsmouth, who's now a city councilman, and his wife are very much into this. They've been very appreciative and helped us do a lot in Ohio. And so if you look up here in the center in Portsmouth, there's a mound park up here, and one of those horseshoes remains. The other one they flattened and put an elementary school on top of it. But there were these walkways, and here it says lines of embankment. The total distance in these is 7.5 miles. And these are 150 to 165 foot wide paths that had walls of earth on each side to enclose them. And then it crossed the Ohio River. And in Kentucky was this bizarre formation, which was still there in 1848. And this is an archaeological reconstruction of it. That is exactly what it looked like. We have been to this site. This is a cattle grazing area now. And along the road that's there, the highway that's there, the owner owns it's like a nursery. And we walked around the field with him, and we could see some of the elements of the original survey still there. And he told me it was his great grandfather who flattened it, plowed it all down flat. And he said it was one of the greatest regrets of his life. So the survey here, the reconstruction is based upon the Smithsonian survey, which is the one down here on the right. And I can actually make that so big so you can see it here. So this is where the sizes came from. You know, the survey gives you the actual heights, and it shows you how high these various lines are. So that's pretty cool. I don't know that I can, yeah.
So, okay, this is like,
There's so many of these. I'm just showing you. We're not even touching the tip of the iceberg here.
Well, that was kind of going to be my next question. Again, if you have time, you know, I remember reading, and it's going to drive me nuts. You probably know exactly where this quote is from. But some hidden, I don't even know what to call it. Just piece of literature, I guess, about America, ancient America, prehistoric America, said that it was covered in cities, not towns, like straight up cities. And the mound culture and the evidence of, like, you know, all the evidence supporting it, which is, you know, myriad, seems to suggest that that was the case, that there were cities across America well before Columbus got here. So is that like kind of what we're seeing here?
That is what you're seeing. They're mainly the largest one is Cahokia. Some of the ones in the Southwest had very large populations also. But most of these are walled fortresses, except for what I've got up here. This is a totally different thing, but these are mounds also. There's mounds here, and there's geometric earthworks that still exist. But there were thousands of these towns, literally thousands of them across all of America, all of it. Some of them were large. The cores of the towns, remember, these people had to eat, so, and they were agricultural. By the time most of the mounds were built, they were still hunting and gathering, but they were mainly agricultural. They had corn, beans, squash, lots of other things. But the towns generally had 3,000-4,000 people in them, sometimes 5,000 in the core. But then around the towns were thousands of people that lived out in the farming areas, would live in ancillary areas. There are lots of small ancillary towns around the bigger ones. And then there are these bizarrities, these geometric earthworks that if I tried to describe what I'm showing here, I couldn't. I wouldn't know how to describe this. So what you're seeing here are elevated terraces that lead to mounds. And there were probably structures on top of every single one of these mounds. On the left side, you see actual LiDAR of this site today. And this is in Florida. It's near Clewiston, Florida. There were lots of these in Florida. Clewiston is basically in the middle of Florida. It's close to Lake Okeechobee. Here is another one that is near Moorhaven, Fort Center, near Moorhaven, Florida. These long terraces, curved terraces. And this up here is a circular earthwork with an inside moat. That is an inner moat in it. And this is a large mound in the center, but there's a moat around it. And then there were buildings on top of it.
Amazing.
And a lot of this it's like, what the heck? We know now there is a very strong, I want to say, Mexican cultural influence. And I have to thank an archaeologist in Colorado, Reed Farmer, who I knew some of this already, but I didn't know there were some mainstream archaeologists really pushing for it. And I'm very appreciative. He really has been very helpful. He's very friendly, one of the friendly archaeologists. He also will say, hey, what you've said is wrong, and I appreciate that. But we know there's a strong influence here. And this site in Crystal River, Florida, started in 500 BC, has a very strong Mexican culture influence. And if you go into the museum and you talk to the staff that aren't the archaeologists running the place, they will show you maps and say that these people were coming from the Yucatan, back and forth from the Yucatan. And in Florida, you'll often hear that, oh, no Mayan artifacts have been found. Well, chocolate has been found at Etowah, Georgia mounds. Chocolate is not indigenous to North America.
No.
When I say North America, I mean the United States or Canada. So chocolate has been identified and proven. In fact, last year, the chocolate they had found some years ago and analyzed, they finally figured out it did indeed come from Mexico. It came up from the Yucatan. And rubber balls have been found in the Southwest. The ball courts in the Southwest are an extension of the ball courts that have been found in the Mayan lands. And rubber balls have been found in Florida, although not by archaeologists. They have been found illegally by individuals digging at sites without permission. Of course, the sites are just not unmarked, wide open. And they're sand and shell mounds, but they have been found there. So it's pretty clear that there is a very strong, they like to call it a Mexican cultural influence, because some people want to say it's Mayan, some will say Aztec, and some will say Olmec. And it's probable that the Olmecs had something to do with Crystal River. It's very probable.
That's incredible.
So there's so much of this, and I really haven't even.
Yeah, you haven't scratched the surface, but you've also rewritten all of American history as we have always been.
2 hours here, yeah.
2 hours, yeah,
literally.
That's incredible.
I will show you this one mound just for the heck of it. And this is at Poverty Point, Louisiana, 1800 BC. Well, probably 1500 BC is when this mound dates to. This is a mound. This whole thing is supposed to be shaped like a bird. Some people believe it's not, but bird effigy is the main thing. There are 200 students on this mound. You see them?
What?
Look very closely at it. I don't know if I can make it larger. Maybe I can make it larger.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
And they're all the way up on the top.
Oh, my gosh.
Jeez.
There were 8 school buses when we took this picture, 8 school buses at the site. And I didn't count the kids, but I saw them when they were starting
doing to one of your tours.
Yeah, this is a great tour place. And it is. It's a national park. There's no admission fee, and they have a very nice museum. They have a lot of cool artifacts. And this used to be considered one of the outliers in American archaeology. And it's definitely an important site, but it's not as old as a lot of other sites.
God. Still, though, that's just...
Yeah, amazing.
I keep being like, wow. I swear I have more intelligent commentary, but I'm just... Like I said, my brain is... kind of melting. I mean, this stuff is a serpent mound.
Seriously.
Yeah. It's just hidden. It's so hidden.
Do you have time to answer some questions from the chat?
Absolutely. Yeah. Our dog is settling down. I told you she had ACL surgery.
Yeah. How is she doing?
She's okay. She doesn't like that thing around her neck.
Oh, the cone of shame.
Yeah. But it is what it is.
What's her name?
Faith. Faith.
That's right.
She was called Faith because it's a long story, but she was found actually near a mound site by 2 friends of ours that were coming back on a weekend, and somebody had dumped her, and she was very young and had a bad back leg, which had surgery on it, and she was just a puppy. So we've had her ever since. Yeah.
Oh,
I've got my guy hopped up on CBD. He's about to have his 19th birthday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That is
incredible.
That is old for a dog.
Yeah.
Man.
Old timer, and he's
It's a testament to the way that you take care of him.
Yeah, it is.
Let's
Lovely.
pull some of these questions up, Sammy.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
All right.
I'm currently surrounded by cats. Like there are so many sitting here around me because I have to let them in, which I usually keep them out for the show, but
okay, pagan Christian mathematician. Yeah. The French colonial area of North America coincides with the rivers and especially the geometric mounds, Hopewell, etc. French explored America hundreds of years before Napoleon conquered and surveyed Egypt.
Is that true?
Absolutely true. Absolutely. We know a lot from French explorers.
That's
he's absolutely right. The French wrote up big reports of seeing the death of the great sun and what happened. That they watched them when they took the great sun in this burial profession. They watched them strangle several women to send them along the pathway with the great sun.
Wow.
And it was at a mound site. The mounds still exist. They're in Natchez, Mississippi.
That's incredible.
Thank you, Pagan, for the super chat.
Thank you so
much. Thanks for
I don't know what that denomination is, but
maybe Australian?
Is that Australian?
No.
What is that?
I know Rue brings in a lot of people for us.
But he's absolutely correct.
Craig loves pyramids. Please have Dr. Little address any connections between North American mound cultures and South American mound cultures like those in the Amazon. Great stuff tonight. Thank you, Craig.
Thank you, Craig.
Love you, Craig. Yeah, very good. So I have been posting some about South America lately. And in books, I wrote a book about South America some years ago. There are and I didn't know about the geometric earthworks at the time because our South America book came out in the year 2000, 26 years ago. So none of those geometric earthworks were known then. But all along the Amazon are thousands of mounds. In fact, the oldest mound in the Amazon, it goes to 8400 BC. It's called Isla del Tesoro. Isla del Tesoro. And it was about 1990. Well, no. I can't remember the year. It was in the 2000s, but not that many years ago. They dated it to 8400 BC, and for a while, it was the oldest mound known in the world. Now, the oldest mound known in the world is in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, in the world. As I already told you, Egypt, the oldest one in Egypt is roughly 7500 BC or 7200 BC.
That's so cool.
Wow.
All right, so the South American cultures made pottery before we did in North America. South America had pottery 1,000 years before it appeared in North America, and it moved up. And that should tell you something.
Yeah.
And yes, absolutely. So there are similarities. The mounds are pretty much the same. They had platform mounds, and a lot of the Yucatan Peninsula pyramids started out as mounds, and then they started putting stone on them. They would put stone structures. There's a lot of earth under some of those mounds, a tremendous amount of earth under those. So they began as mounds. So the connection is this. We know that, I say we know, I'll put it this way. It is highly, highly likely that there's a strong influence, at least from Mexico. And Mexico was probably influenced by stuff from South and Central America moving up. There is a group in South America that has identical DNA to people in Australia and New Zealand. There's an indigenous population in Brazil that has been there ever since history started, 1492. They have been there, and their DNA is identical to Australian and New Zealand Aboriginal populations. Same people.
And this isn't. And I've heard about this before, and this isn't. I think there's a lot for a lot of us, at least in our audience. This isn't hard to believe or right. But I think the question is, a lot of us like to try to figure out is which way did they go first, right?
Well, I don't know. I can tell you that there are sites in the United States. The Cerruti site, for example, goes to like 133,000 years ago. That is in California. That is very old. And Leakey found a site in California that he dated to roughly 200,000 years ago. And that's a ballpark there. And Leakey actually left the field and just kind of disappeared. He moved into isolation because he was attacked so bitterly because of it. There are a lot of sites in the United States dated to 16 to 19,000 years ago, 20,000 years ago. And there's one site in the Topper site in South Carolina, which Albert Goodyear, professor of archaeology at the University of South Carolina, says dates to 50,000 BC. Almost nobody disputes his earlier dating going to like 25 and 30,000 BC, but he claims that lower levels go to 50,000 BC. So what's the oldest? There's a site in Mexico called Hueyatlaco, which the dates go to roughly 400,000 BC. You guys can get Will on with incredible history.
Oh yeah, well,
I was just gonna say Will.
I just asked him to talk to him today, and he's coming back on the show with us in February.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
We wrote in the chat.
We wrote about Hueyatlaco in that ancient South America book that we did back in 2001. And all these old sites. There are other sites in Brazil that go to 50,000 BC. And Brazilian archaeologists, I quoted a lot of them, and in that book, and they said that North American archaeologists do not like them. They have this idea that they were first. That's an exact term. We were first. And North American archaeologists have ever said, no, they came down through Beringia and they came through North America first. And then they eventually went to South America. So we were first. And they say that's probably not true. They're not saying they were first, but there are sites in South America, many that go to 50,000, 40,000 BC. All of them are disputed by North American archaeologists, but all of them have published data from South American archaeologists.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh, and I'll mention this, the Hueyatlaco dating, which Will has mentioned, the original dating came from the U.S. Geological Survey.
Yeah.
And so instead of saying, oh, that their dating technique was wrong, they said that, well, what they were dating was something natural and not human. That was the way to get around the dating.
And people need to go watch Will's videos and that video.
Fantastic.
Will is in the chat. Will, drop your YouTube channel link in the chat so people can find you and follow you, please.
And he's got another one on his visit to Piedras Negras, Guatemala. Yeah. Which my wife and I did in the she wrote a book about Piedras Negras in 1999. And then we went to Piedras Negras. I think it was 2003 or 4 when we went. Very difficult place to get to, very difficult trip. And Will went there. He made the same kind of boat trip that we did there. It was maybe more dangerous because as soon as we left, drug runners came in and set up machine guns on the machine gun nests on the pyramids that overlooked the Usumacinta River. And after it, the DEA and Guatemalan helicopters came in and wiped them out. This was months after we were there.
Well, that does sound like one of Will's trips.
Yeah.
Sammy, we got any other?
Yeah, speaking of Will, he's the next one.
Yeah.
Poverty Point main mound was built in less than 60 days. Entire site had 30,000 dump trucks worth of dirt moved.
So imagine humans using but they didn't use dump trucks. They used baskets. So imagine carrying and archaeologists have determined the baskets held about 40 pounds worth of soil. So humans would have to dig the soil up and then carry it and dump it. Somebody pounded it down so that it would resist water. 60 days. And now they're thinking that Cahokia was thrown, all 120 mounds at Cahokia, roughly 900 BC when Cahokia started. The people that came into Cahokia actually came from Chaco Canyon.
Really?
So I'm going to get, this, we don't have time to, and this is like, boom, mind-blowing. So the people who started Cahokia, the culture originated from Chaco Canyon. and it went to Arkansas, and it went to Missouri, and it was in Oklahoma. Bits and pieces of it were in Louisiana, and then eventually got to St. Louis, went across St. Louis, and got to Cahokia. Cahokia already had mounds, and what they did, they got rid of all of them. They flattened it and started over and rebuilt the whole thing within a period of a couple of years. It wasn't long. They used to say they thought it took 300 years or so. But the culture originated at Chaco, and it probably came up, the culture probably came up from Mexico. A long involved story.
Rewriting history here.
Absolutely. If you have old history books on this stuff, they are literally out of date.
Throw them out.
God, that's
well, I don't know about that. I wish I'd kept a lot of stuff, because I've started buying textbooks that I used when I was in elementary school, because I've gone into schools now, and I've given talks in a couple of schools, and they still don't teach any of this.
Yeah.
Zero. What they teach is, they do talk about the Trail of Tears and how Native Americans were deprived of their land, and we didn't keep our word, and they broke treaties and kept pushing them further and further. They do teach that, but they're not teaching them about the actual culture.
Yeah. They're just teaching, like, well, it's the normalization.
It's still modern history. It's still historical history. It's not any of the prehistory.
There's no championing of the origin culture of America. There's no championing of any of the origin cultures of America. It's all normalizing the kind of victim complex that we're seeing sort of run rampant around young people today. Oh, I think all education's a psyop.
Yeah.
I'm just not convinced that most public mainstream schools, firstly, they're vastly underfunded. But there's nothing, it's almost like there's nothing to get excited about anymore. Yeah. Like, can you imagine if this stuff was taught in schools, how
people would be excited?
Well, because it's also so imaginative. It's so open and explorative, and that doesn't create minds that are obedient when you train minds to question and ask all of these mysterious things.
I have made fun of some of the things that I've read going in. We've been into, I don't know how many museums we've been in. I don't know how many mound sites we've been in probably a couple of, we've seen thousands of mounds, but I don't know how many sites. But one of the things that I've said before is that archaeologists could really do a job of making this much more appealing to the masses, getting information out, instead of going in and they give you this thing. The people that lived here lived off of nuts and berries, and they hunted, and later they planted corn. I mean, okay, but and that's what they and if you read reports, it's flora and fauna, and what's the geology like, what's the environment like, and they're giving these presentations in the museums like they write reports for each other. They are not writing them for the general population.
Right.
And that is the that's the main thing. They could make this far more appealing to people.
Well, I think that's why, I mean, we didn't really get into like any of the sort of like UFO, skinwalker, like any of that kind of stuff today, but we talk about it a lot on the show, like the crossover between people who were into stuff like, UFOs, abductions, weird experiences, and then looking at ancient histories. And I think it feeds into, what Sammi was saying about the imaginative, creative side of our brains that like thirsts for that. But I think we're also just at a point now where, because of mass communication, the upside to it is that we're all talking about these ideas and thoughts in spaces where we're not going to get mocked. Whereas like before now, even when I was growing up, if you talked about stuff like this in classrooms, people would make fun of you.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, a quote unquote safe space, as much as I think, that whole thing is also like shut up.
Hey, my first book was about UFOs. My first book was 1984, called The Archetype Experience, and it was a follow-up of Carl Jung's final book, which he called Flying Saucers. And nobody had ever written a follow-up book to Carl Jung's last book, so I wrote what I considered a follow-up to it.
See, we're gonna have to have you back on because I want to get into some of this stuff.
Yeah,
Well,
completely separate from the.
We'll never finish on the Mounds and this stuff. It is. I mean, the stories are it's not a bottomless pit, but it's really interesting. And it was because of that first book then it got me into UFOs, literally, and it got me into the Indian Mounds. It was a very sudden thing that happened in 1983, and I've told the story, but don't have time to tell it here. But it was just a dream. I had a dream. I knew nothing, and I had a dream that led us to a mound site in Memphis, Tennessee, where I've already showed you. And then my wife and I together saw a spider in our house, which at the time we lived adjacent to Memphis State University in Memphis. And I decided we got to go to a mound. I'd had these mound dreams. And I said, we got to go to a mound. This was after we saw this spider at the same time. Very big spider, long story. And so we went to the mound site in Memphis, and there was this spider on the wall. And that is the spider my wife and I saw. It had the same color. It looked identical to that. Oh, you can't see it, can you? Because I'm not sharing my screen. And
I would love to meet your wife and have her come on the show as well, if she'd be interested.
Yeah, I thought I could click on that and it would share, but it's not going to do it.
We can. Where are you on the books, or is that Sammy?
Well, you know.
Do we have any other super chats we need to get to before?
We just also this one, another word of mouth guy. Also, thank you for the $2 before.
Yes, thank you.
Carl Jung was an occultist and one of the modern fathers of psychology and social science. I agree.
I love social science.
Yeah.
Unlike, I'm just blanking on the other one. The other psychologist who created the other form of psychology.
Freud? No.
Thank you. Yeah. Unlike Freud, who is a creepy weirdo. So
Freud. I taught psychology in college. I got to give Freud some credit. Of course, Jung was a student of Freud's for a while, and they split up because of an event that occurred, an occult event, a paranormal event that occurred when they were sitting together in a room. That actually caused their breakup. And Jung did a dissertation, which is unusual for a medical doctor, but he did a dissertation on a trance channeler. But he and Jung and Freud broke up because of the occult stuff. But almost every defense mechanism that we have was discovered by Freud and named by Freud: projection, denial. If you've ever known anything about alcoholism treatment, they say, well, you're in denial. Most of them aren't in denial. They're lying. People that drink too much, you're in denial. They're not in denial. They're just not telling the truth. But everything from every defense mechanism, there's like a dozen of them. Reaction formation, projection is a very big one. It was Freud that came up with all those.
Yeah.
But Jung split off and started his own, which is called psychoanalytic psychology. And Freud's was analytic psychology. So that's the difference. But there's others, other psychologists that really came up with weird stuff. But yes, Jung's last book came out in 1959 called Flying Saucers, A Modern Myth of Things Seen in the Skies. And almost nobody understood it.
You had a post from Jung. I guess this was a couple weeks ago, and I commented on it. It was one of my favorite because it was so insightful in terms of some of the back and forth going on between the archaeological community and the ancient history, alternative ancient history community. And it just really resonated with me because of the last year that I've been kind of having a back and forth with the archaeological community, simply just for showing what I've documented for the last 10 years at sites around the world. And I just thought it was really good. And it actually really made me, I'm glad you posted that because it really put me in a different headspace where I've always been about kind of bridging, wanting to cross bridges to relate with people. And I kind of, you get poked at enough for long enough and you kind of forget some of that.
Oh, you get pissed off.
Yeah. And
you start poking back. I was a vicious enemy for some of them. And I mean, there are a couple of skeptics that I eviscerated and posted stuff because of, they're not lies, but they're untruths. But when I exposed some of the untruths, they got exceedingly angry that they had written in textbooks. And with this, the Atlantis stuff, uncovered like the main skeptic of all of the Atlantis research that was done in the Bahamas. The main skeptic was a geologist, and I'm saying that because the guy had a bachelor's degree in biology. That was but he was a U.S. Geological Survey employee with the title of geologist, hired at a time when he could do scuba diving and they needed somebody to do underwater work. And over the years, he became a geologist there. But he actually fabricated fake archaeological objects with the knowledge of people in the U.S. Geological Survey and the knowledge of people in universities in Florida. Several universities in Florida knew that he was doing this during the time. They kept it secret for decades. He took it to the Bahamas and he planted these artifacts at what is called the Bimini Road or the Bimini Wall. And his other research, the other things that he did, I took his actual article. He wouldn't send me the actual article, the original article that he based everything else that he said about Bimini, about how it was. And we don't think it's Atlantis. We don't think anything down there is Atlantis. We haven't found anything like it. But it is a harbor. It's a harbor dated to about 3000 BC when the sea levels were a little lower. That's what the Bimini Road is. There's one at Andros Island. There's one at Cape Sal, identical in both of those places. But he literally lied in subsequent reports. And I've told him that to his face. And I said, hey, if I am defaming you, sue me.
Yeah.
Sue me for it. I'd be glad to go to court and prove it. But I already posted. I made a paper where I posted his articles. My wife and I had to go to the University of Florida's library, the only place we could find that had his copies of his original article and copy them, because he wouldn't send them to me. He wouldn't send them to anybody. Because what he said later, I mean, it's a complicated thing, but he said Bimini is natural because he cored these stones at the Bimini Road and they all tilt toward deep water. That's what he said. They all tilt toward toward deep water on the land. And so there is such a thing as beach rock carbonate limestone. You can actually carbon date it. It's the only stone you can carbon date. But if it's all tilted toward the deep water, it's natural. All right. So he said all of my cores, the dozens of cores, tilted toward deep water. But in his original report, scientific report, which is not available to anybody, he didn't find that. He found 1/3 of them tilted to deep water, 1/3 of them were flat, and 1/3 of them tilted toward the land. But every publication thereafter, even in the Skeptical Inquirer and in archaeological journals that he published with archaeologists, he said that they all tilted toward deep water. And so when I confronted him with it, he said his literal quote, this in the paper I published, was, well, I should have just been more precise. That was his answer. I could have been more precise.
What a narcissist.
But there are many other things in that. He said that there were fluted marble columns found in Bimini. And there were these cement columns found at Bimini, about a dozen cement columns and 3 or 4 marble columns. The cement columns, this is the most bizarre stories ever. I mean, this, no one knows this. I don't know if you have time. You got 2-3 minutes left?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So in 1968, the Bimini Road was supposedly discovered by J. Manson Valentine. Valentine went to the newspapers and information went out everywhere. Shortly thereafter, a geologist who happens to live in Virginia Beach, Virginia, by the name of Wyman Harrison, published a short report in the most prestigious journal that exists in science, which is Nature Journal. And he said that he took a piece off of one of the stones, and it was beach rock. And he said it's all natural. And then he went and he looked at the marble columns that had been discovered. And he said, well, they obviously came off of a ship. And then he took the cement, the other columns that were later found to be like cement. He took pieces of those and he sent them to the head of the Portland Cement Association. All right. So the head of the Portland Cement Association had them analyzed and found that they are lime kiln cement, which is a very, very old form of cement. All right. And that's what he put in his article.
Okay.
And this guy, Wyman Harrison, said, nothing here, nothing to be seen. It's just old, probably from the 1800s, but lime kiln cement's far older than that. It goes way back. But he said it's probably lime kiln cement. And I talk about Harrison in a minute. And then, so this other geologist who published and said, did the cores and planted the fake the fake artifacts everywhere, he then publishes articles in the Skeptical Inquirer and in an archaeology journal with a very impressive archaeologist, and says that all of the columns found at Bimini were just Portland cement. That's what he says. They're all just Portland cement. And in the same article, he says, I proved that it was natural because all of the beach rock points toward the deep water. It tilts down, which is how beach rock forms. You can see beach rock everywhere in the Bahamas. And it's a great building material. And the Mediterranean seawalls and the harbors are made from beach rock in the Mediterranean. That's what they're all made out of, except for the Roman ones, which use cement, Roman cement. So it's just very interesting how for years, and this is what people constantly refer to. Hey, this geologist says this, and Wyman Harrison guy. Wyman Harrison had a pseudonym. He was the geologist and the PhD geologist in Virginia Beach who wrote the original article. You can still see all of his publications online under his pseudonym. And his pseudonym is William Hutton. William Hutton was a famous geologist from years ago. But anyway, that was his pseudonym. But he also had another pseudonym called the Geologist. He wrote books for Edgar Cayce organization on a variety of things. And he was at Bimini drilling for gold. And he did that for years. He drilled for gold.
Sounds like Bimini. A real character.
Sounds like another great drunk history.
Based upon Edgar Cayce saying that there was gold at Bimini. But it was gold. But he said there was a gold vein at Bimini. So this guy, funded by a variety of people and initially the Cayce organization, he didn't want anybody down there. He was drilling all over the place looking for gold. It's bizarre. And then a few years ago, he finally came out on his website. William Hutton had his photo. He never put his photo out. He's been very careful that nobody'd see a picture of him. But he finally said, before he died a few years, he finally came out and said, okay, I'm Wyman Harrison. Here are my articles. And he put his original article about Bimini on his website. But it's just, all this is just bizarre. It is absolutely bizarre to me. And with Cayce, how one very prominent archaeologist wrote a book and said in that book, why he'd write a book, he talked about Edgar Cayce. And why? Because he said, Cayce talks about Atlantis. And he said, but in his book, he said Edgar Cayce obviously plagiarized Donnelly's book on Atlantis. And he said, after all, Cayce's readings are filled with Donnelly. He talks about Donnelly all the time. And so I, knowing a little bit more about the Casey organization and Casey's readings than he did, I actually talked to him on the phone for an hour and interviewed him before I had a 2001 book come out where I cited all this stuff. And I said to him I said to this, you know, Edgar Casey never mentioned never mentioned Donnelly one time in his readings ever. And he said, yes, he did in his book. He said it over and over. And I said, that book wasn't written by Edgar Casey. I said, that book was written by Edgar Evans Casey, Casey's youngest son, who was an engineer who was comparing his father's readings on Atlantis with what Donnelly said. I said, that's what you read. And he said, no, it isn't. That's Edgar Casey wrote. I said, no. And I said, that's Edgar Casey's son. It's one of his sons who was still alive.
Wow.
I interviewed him. I knew him really well. He was a great guy. I mean, he didn't, that man, Edgar Evans Casey, as I was told initially, he wasn't allowed to speak at the ARE for some years because he made so many people mad, because that man was just straightforward with it. He'd say, nope, nothing. Nope, no way. Now, my dad didn't do that. And so I sat on a stage with him when they brought him back in and fielded questions from the audience, which at first he said, now I know, when I was fielding some questions, which I knew he would go off in, he said, now I know why you're here. so I could intervene and not have him go off on people. But he didn't believe me. And he said, well, and I said, just look it up. I said, the first line of his book, page 1, chapter 1, said, I am Edgar Casey's son. That's the first page, first line. I'm Edgar Casey's son. And he said, well, all that stuff is in Harvard. It's a Harvard professor. Stephen Williams, renowned archaeologist. Everybody makes mistakes. I don't think he did it deliberately, and I never said he's lied about that. He made a mistake. But here you go. When people make errors, when you've done things for so long, your dark side can take over, and you see other people as enemies. I mean, Carl Jung talked about a dark side. It's called the shadow.
Right.
And as soon as somebody begins challenging us and questioning us and pushing us and poking at us, it brings out some of our worst tendencies, which can be to attack back. That's what's going on between the two sides. And I really don't engage in it. This is the most I've talked about this in a while. And I wanted to say all this because I don't engage in it. I'm not going to engage in it. It's not worth it anyway. And somebody starts calling you a liar, the best thing to block them.
I don't usually engage back, especially on social media. There's a few times where, but my general rule of thumb is to not engage when people. I mean, it's a black hole you get sucked into in terms of, and it leads nowhere, anyways. But we had one more super chat. Sammy, can you bring it up?
Yeah, I figured this would stimulate some stuff. How close? Well,
how close? Sorry, let me read it real quick. How close is the relationship between the Amazon and the North American mound culture? Thank you, Rue.
Thank you, Rue.
I have talked a bit about that. There is a similarity with them. They have very similar culture. I've read a lot about their belief system in South America because there's actually tons written about it. I have a stack of books the Smithsonian did called the Handbook of South American Archaeology, where they get into a lot of their beliefs in addition to their sites. So they had similar beliefs, but South America saw the stars different from we do in North America. They saw the stars differently, and everything that we see, they didn't see, and everything they see, we didn't. So they have a slightly different belief system about where the soul goes and so on. But they had very similar beliefs about what happens to it. Genetically, they are different. Most of the South American original people, their genes are different. They have different haplogroups than we have in North America. Although along Peru, coastal Peru, their haplogroups are similar to Native American haplogroups, but they split some time ago. That's the way to put it. but they have some of the same haplogroups. But when you get further down, I will say this: there are some that have been found in Chile, which came from the Middle East.
What?
Their haplogroups are from the Middle East. I don't know what
No
to say.
kidding.
Yeah,
that's wild.
Really, and Nazca, a couple have been found in Nazca that are not indigenous. They're not. These are skeletal remains.
Amazing.
And I don't
That's
know.
so cool.
I think that was published. I do talk to some of the authors of this. I do talk to some archaeologists that are doing studies. I do have archaeological friends. Most of them say, "Don't mention my name ever," and I have. If they tell me that, I won't. I'm waiting for Reed Farmer now to say, "Don't mention my name anymore." Reed is a skeptic too. He's a good guy. So there are similarities.
Well, I don't think I've had a bad experience with him. I may even be following him. I don't know.
He's a good follow. You should follow him. He's a good guy.
Yeah, and then I just started following Anthony Wilson at Will's recommendation. I think there's some people that we can have good conversations with, and I'd like to have some of them on here and have like real conversations.
Ask Reed might come on. Ask Reed Farmer if he'll come on. I'd love to come on and ask him. Not come on, but I'd love to ask him questions in your chat. I have to give him Okay. All right.
Dr. Little, where can everyone find your work? Where would you like us to direct everyone?
Okay, the thing to do is to just Google my full name, not Greg Little, because you'll get football players.
I noticed that.
Football players are far more important than anybody else. But put in my full name, Gregory, and then put my middle initial, L, Gregory L. Little. And even you'll see an old curriculum vitae there that'll show a lot of 70 books and a few hundred publications.
It's amazing.
I do have all your stuff linked in the description here in the video, so that's going to be available for everybody. You can just go down into the description.
Twitter's the place to find me, and my email is actually on my Vita, which is, like I said, online. But you can find me there, and I'm on Facebook. But otherwise,
it turns out, if you guys are interested in all this, you can take a tour with Greg coming up, right? Are you still selling tour?
They're taking people till I think it's the 27th of January to the Southwest. It's a bit expensive. I don't set the price, and I'm not making a penny from it, nor is my wife. We're actually we do this really as a donation to the organization. We've done that with all the tours, and we're even getting there on our own. We're not they're not paying our way there. We're doing it. So just to support the organization. So you can go to edgarcayce.org, edgarcayce.org, and you'll find it there. Last tour I'm doing.
Till the next one.
No, it is the last one. It's it. My wife was she was actually
about that.
No, my wife was the chair of the board of trustees of the Cayce organization, which is the Edgar Cayce Foundation, the Association for Research and Enlightenment, and Atlantic University. So she was the head of the ARE organization for a couple years, and she was on the board for years before that. And we've been heavily involved with it. So there you go. But I don't say everything Cayce said was real, but I know what he said. I can tell you pretty much everything he talked about.
That's so cool.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been great. Thank you so much. I was looking forward to this. Like I said at the beginning, we connected on social media, but I'm really happy to be talking with you in person.
Thank you. Second longest show I've done. For 4 hours and coast to coast once was the longest. And I'll be on coast to coast this Thursday night, midnight.
Oh, nice.
Oh, heck yeah. We'll be there. We will be there.
Midnight
we'd
to
love to
Central
have you
Time.
back. Like, there's so much more that, like, I know that we wanted to get into this evening.
Yeah, we had a list of
stuff.
Love
to have you back at some point, because this was just like, this was such a gift. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you. You guys are great. And I know you're going to talk amongst yourselves for a bit.
Yeah. We'll do our outro and then.
All right.
We'll
thank you for coming on.
Thank you. See you again. See you on Twitter.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. You're
wow. That was.
Here, let's do,
final clap.
Yeah, final. There you go.
I feel like.
Did you turn it off? Oh.
No.
There you go.
Oh my gosh. What an incredible
amazing.
experience.
3
Mike
goes by quick. Wow.
That just flew by. Thank you so much for setting that up.
Oh,
that
man.
was beautiful. I've been
looking forward to connecting with him for a really long time. And so this was like all since last week, I've been like, yes. Because there's just so much information. Like he said, he wasn't even scratching the surface. And I still feel like I don't know anything about the mounds, as far as there just seems like there's so much more to dig into. What a great thing. We will have to have him back on. I don't know how we won't be able to talk the whole time about more mound stuff and get into the other things we had.
You'd be fine with doing like another 6-part series on mounds and then get into the other stuff, because the mound thing that does literally rewrite all of American history as we've been taught. Like I had to do it in high school. Like I did a whole year, sat like part of my GCSE exams, which I know doesn't mean it's like an SAT, but Welsh. Sat part of those exams on American history. Never came up.
Yeah.
In fact, I would argue now what we were taught was not just skimming the surface of the truth, but was probably circumventing it enormously.
But we don't learn about any of this in America. It's crazy.
Yeah. We're gonna have to have him back on too, because there were like 10 more questions that were just regular questions, like non-super chat questions that we couldn't get to. So I just want to say sorry to people in the chat. We couldn't get to all the questions. There were so many, but we'll have him back on.
Yeah.
It sounds like,
absolutely. So, and I want to make sure, Sammy, will you drop a link in the chat again? Make sure, guys, because the majority of everybody is still on the main channel, and we're going to be eventually moving all of this over to the live stream. So we don't want you guys to miss any of the upcoming shows that we have, because we got a good roster coming up, and I'll share that here in a second. But Sammy, just going to drop the channel link for Wandering Wolf Live. This is our new dedicated channel for live streams.
Yeah.
And eventually here in the coming weeks, we're going to have to switch everything over to that. And the reason is the YouTube algorithm does not like the live streaming on my travel ancient history channel. So it's been nerfing and my content and not pushing out the regular form content and showing the channel to people. And then as soon as we started the live stream and I moved content off and over to the live stream channel, it seemingly fixed itself. So it's just a weird YouTube algorithm thing. And then honestly, it works out great because now we have a channel dedicated to our weekly live stream and other live streams that we might be doing. So make sure you guys hit that link. Just go over real quick, hit the subscribe button and turn the bell on so you don't miss it when we do make that switch. And just to share with everybody the upcoming lineup. We forgot to do that the last couple weeks. Let me see. Next week, if you guys don't know her yet, you're missing out. Cassie Coppersmith from Secrets in Stone. As soon as I saw her content, I was like, she is going to blow up. And she is very quickly. So we're having Cassie Coppersmith on. She's from the YouTube channel Secrets in Stone next week. And I'm really looking forward to that. After that, we're having my buddies Kyle and Russ from Brothers of the Serpent on. We've done a bunch of stuff together with the Cartwrights here in Texas and filming several sites. And they have an awesome show. You guys need to check them out too. We'll be having them on in a couple weeks. It's going to be great. And I don't know how much further I should be going, huh? I mean,
I would just tease those two, and then next week we'll tease another couple of weeks, and then
we got way more than that coming y'all's way, which you guys are going to really love. So
It's gonna be
got a good
huge.
lineup for the next month and a half.
Yeah. And we can't forget. Thank you, Rebecca.
Oh, yeah, thank you for remembering.
Oh my gosh. Thank you,
Thank
Rebecca.
you, Gollum.
Thank you,
I'm just gonna say
Gollum.
Gollum.
Heck
We have to
yeah.
say the
It's
whole.
all
You have to say the
showing
whole
up.
name, Sammy.
No, I'm not gonna say the whole name.
Gollum's half botched circumcision. I feel like if we don't say it, we'll stop getting membership guests.
It's like support and love.
Gollum's half botched circumcision.
Hey, can I just whisper it?
Yes.
Gollum half botched circumcision.
That's some ASMR thing. That's
Yeah.
actually better
It's
than
like-
saying it just regular.
Putting my nails on my mic.
Yeah.
Thank you, B Buster.
B Buster again coming
Yeah,
through with
thank
500
you.
ships. Thank you.
I thought I saw. Oh, and
Amazing.
another one. We had 2.
Oh, you dropped 10?
So
10
freaking
memberships.
generous.
Let's give him an applause for that.
Yeah. 10. Awesome.
Amazing.
Guys, I'm not yawning because I'm bored. I'm yawning because I'm 9 months pregnant. I'm sorry. And I'm sitting in a room with literally no ventilation.
I was worried about you there when we hit the 2.5 hour mark.
I just hit that wall. I've never felt exhaustion like this, but I'm just sitting here like, no, Greg, keep talking, sir. I want to know everything. Ignore me. I don't even exist anymore. Let's
So
just
much
listen to this.
information.
Oh, just incredible. And like the images he shared, like we're just so bloody lucky. Like,
I mean, look
This
at
was
what
such a
we've
good
had on
idea,
since we started.
Mike.
We've been doing this for a few months. Well, October?
that.
Did we start in
3
October?
3.5 months or so.
Yeah.
2.5 months.
hmm
And the level of like knowledge that we've been exposed to has been incredible and fascinating.
yeah.
I'm just so well. Thank you, everybody. Do we have any other notes or stuff? Remind everybody of the conferences coming up in Sedona and Austin, and we have a video coming out. We're going to try to get a video out to everybody on the main channel from Egypt. This Friday is what we're shooting for. We'll see if we can.
And it's going to be a premiere.
Yes. So we'll be in chat with you.
Yeah.
It's good, guys. It's good, guys. This is our first full video we've all worked on together to create, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wait, didn't we do another one? I want to say
Easter Island, but
we
this
did Easter Island.
Sammy filmed.
But Sammy, yeah, this is no offense, Mike, but this is like one of the best things I've ever seen, full stop, regardless of the origin. You guys have knocked it out the park.
Yeah, it looks like a 1 million+ platform video.
You know, it could be
Because it is.
Honestly, you could use that video as like a pilot for a show.
It's so
like
great.
on a
I can't
mainstream
wait to
like
see it.
network.
Yeah. Yeah, having Sammy in Egypt to do the filming instead of me with my iPhone really worked out pretty well.
Sammy, you've got to go on every tour now.
Dream.
That's what I'm hearing.
Oh no.
Oh no, what a hard life. Oh.
We'll see.
Oh no, I'm gonna have to go to Japan and see all the megalithic sites. Oh
Yes,
I'm
no.
trying to make it
you
with
know
me to
what?
the after trip.
If anyone is in Pacific Northwest, come get a tattoo from me.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes.
Do more filming.
If anyone's in North Carolina, come bring me food when my baby arrives so I don't have to cook.
I wish I
Yay.
could. I want to so bad.
No, you're so
You gotta let us
sweet.
know. Well, I'll send you food. I'll send you guys food.
Yeah, can
Oh,
I
no,
like
you can be
vacuum
sweet.
seal and freeze some enchiladas or something?
No, you can just send it to her on Uber.
There is no Uber Eats where I live, dude. I live in the middle of a field in the middle of lots of other fields. We don't have any food delivery service where I live.
Oh man.
But my parents are coming into town, so they're going to be our Uber Eats. I'm very grateful for. But I was also.
Are you going to be at the hospital? Are you going to a hospital? Or are you doing a home birth?
Yeah. Cody's been helping me get my brain around all of it because him and his wife, obviously, he has like 4 kids, and they've done both. But yeah, for this first one, I think more for like John's peace of mind.
Yeah,
we'll go to a hospital. Plus, it's the hospital that like he was born in, his mom was born in. You know, It's sweet. It's the one where I took him. It's 20 minutes away. But I once got there in 9 minutes when he slipped and almost cut his hand off. That was with my old car, and it was a stick shift, and I got to drift it onto the highway. And afterwards I was like, dude, that was so cool. He was like, yeah, I thought I was gonna die. I was like, from the hand or my driving? He's like, oh. But yeah, so the hospital's super close. It's gonna be great. Can't wait.
Well, good. It's good that you can get there quick. So,
and I want to get a tattoo from Sammi. That's my goal for the Austin conference as well, is to get a tattoo.
She squeezed me out on the last one. I've said this before, but she didn't. I know that you didn't want to get sick because I was sick.
No, it's not about me. It's about you.
You were looking out for me.
My mask is for you. No.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're definitely doing one in Sedona.
It's the immune system. You can't get a tattoo when you're sick because then the tattoo won't heal as good as it could.
It would have messed me up for real. I was pretty bad. So I'm just gonna get a face tattoo in Sedona, and then.
Did you say a face tattoo?
I'm not doing that.
There's nothing
above the neck.
Tiny little knife beneath his eyeball.
You know, actually, Mike, you and I don't know if we've ever talked about this, but we have some of the same tattoos. You just can't see mine because they faded completely, basically, on my hands.
We have similar tattoos too.
Yeah. That's why we're all part of the same little
club.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you everyone for hanging out tonight. This was so freaking cool.
So good.
It was so cool.
I felt like I was playing keep up and not asking the right questions because there's so much. And I just thought there was a point in there where I just thought it was better to just let him tell me. Yeah. And then we try to come back and tackle this on another interview sometimes if he'll come back. And I thought that was the best way to do it because
I think you're absolutely on the money. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
It's amazing. Sammi, you want to pick some outro music for us before we say goodbye?
Heck yeah.
You guys have been great. Thanks, chat. What a great stream. We hit I think we almost hit some record numbers besides Graham.
Every week we got some record numbers. Yeah, other than I think literally Gary and Graham.
Yeah, those are like our outliers that throw off the whole algorithm, right?
Which we're grateful for. Because we're trying to do a thing here, guys. Send everything to your friends. We know it's long. We're going to start clipping and posting on socials. We talked about that ages ago. We have to start doing that.
Yeah, we got plans.
We got some good stuff coming.
It's going to be a big year.
Yeah,
it's going to be a great year.
Oh,
I feel like we've all really hit our rhythm here together as a group, and now Kay's going to leave us again here and have a baby.
I'll be gone for long. I'll be gone for like a month at the very most, but not really. Like I'll still be probably doing behind the scenes stuff. It depends on how chaotic everything's gonna get, which from everything I've been told is insanely chaotic.
No, you're gonna have a perfect baby that's just gonna sleep and just
let's speak that into her life. You're gonna have a perfect sleeping precious baby.
But for the first 2 weeks, it doesn't matter if that baby sleeps. I have to wake it up every 3 to 4 hours to feed it, which I learned at my breastfeeding class this weekend. And I was like, and it's not like you finish feeding and then you wait 3 hours. It's from the start of the first feed. So I could feed for a full hour. And then there's all the burping and pooping. And then
you are so pregnant right now.
I'm so pregnant.
It's crazy how that happens.
I know.
So weird.
Me and John were just hanging out. I'm just kidding. We're super married. But yeah. That's crazy how that happens. But
it's like how we all got here too. It's so strange.
Isn't that wild? And also gross.
Yeah, it's kind of gross.
I did about sleep for about 4 years. It says.
Oh yeah, no, and like we're doing like the co-sleeping thing as well because we're a bunch of hippies, redneck hippies.
Right there with you.
You guys are going to be great. You're going to be surrounded by love and people that want to help you. It's going to be.
I want to see some love right now before we say goodbye.
Is it a kitten?
Oh, it's not a kitten. It's a big boy. It's a
we can't go an episode without showing our cats.
Oh,
That's
he got
a
a
big
brain over
head.
there. He
Yeah,
tried to
big
talk
man,
into the
big man.
microphone.
Can you imagine my surprise when I turned on my tracker and was like, hey babe, Tude is 10 miles away. What the?
You got to put a little camera so you can, you know, like those channels where people make videos from their cat's POV.
Oh, around his neck?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do
Yeah.
you reckon, Tude?
You can hear him chasing things, going like, gak, 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 gak.
Look at this angel.
Oh, sleepy.
All right, guys. What do you say? Call it a night?
Adios,
Yeah.
muchachos.
I think we did good. Bye, guys. It's been
Gracias
really
por
nice.
todos.
Love y'all.
Hasta luego.
Hasta luego.
Peace.
Bye bye.